are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lotto.
32 minutes, 21 seconds. 5-second tone followed by a 1-second pause.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Okay, gang, let's go.
From the space city called Houston, Texas, welcome to Spaceboy Universe, featuring Spaceboy and the lovely Sir Lotto. So strap in and prepare for launch sequence.
Greetings and welcome to Spaceboy Universe. I am Spaceboy, and of course Solana is across from me right now doing technical triage on some equipment. It is April 1st, 2017, and tonight's guest is Patrick-sporer, the Dream Cognition Experiment. And we're going to take your calls, but since equipment is going left and right, well, we do apologize. It might not happen. But we will have a guest on tonight. As always, follow us on Twitter. That's at the SB Universe. You can also follow Sirlana at Sirlana. You can follow me, and that is at Spaceboy Music. Of course, follow the network that carries all our programming, and that is at the SBUN. And that's always important. Of course, if you want to follow along on Twitter, make sure to hashtag your tweets with hashtag SBUniverse and hashtag Space Cadets. Want to hang out with said Space Cadets? You can do so by going to spaceboyuniverse.com, click on the dancing chat bubble, and once you do that, it'll get you in with all the cool kids. In addition to Twitter, you can find the universe on Facebook, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just look for the Spaceboy Universe logo. Speaking of YouTube, you can find more than the Spaceboy Universe of archive of shows. There is video content from Spaceboy Music, video interviews, 2-Bit Gamers, and so much more. Can't catch a show live? No problemo. Take the SBU on the go with you via Spreaker, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Because, man, we love to broadcast. Don't we, Sir Lana?
Yeah.
There you go. So, I guess we've probably reached the final frontier on some of our equipment. Would you say that, Sir Lana?
Yeah. Get me a hammer. I'll fix it.
Mm-hmm. I want to segue into a serious note today, if you'll indulge me, Sir Lana. After a long consideration of things that have been going on in our universe, we've decided to discontinue Spaceboy Universe. I know that's pretty sad, and suddenly it's kind of tragic. Our last show is going to be next week. And but we wanted to thank all the fans that have tuned in over the year and a half plus stuff, and we appreciate everyone tuning in every single night that we've had a show. It's been so taxing on us, not being able to take any time off and enjoying, things other than, doing this thing. So yeah. So, Sir Lana, did you want to say some words on that?
Yeah, it's just kind of like it's like a sad joke.
Yeah. It's unfortunate it has to fall on April Fools. I'm disappointed in you, Space Cadets, if you thought this was for real. Space Boy Universe is not going anywhere.
If for no more than just to upset people.
We're a thorn in many people's side, but we are not going anywhere. And we're going to continue to provide you this programming, and we're looking forward to our second anniversary in September. So, Bob, sorry to throw you for a loop there. We appreciate the fact that
I'm getting there shortly.
Yeah, I know. I'm filling some time here.
Sorry.
And Bob didn't like that one. He was saying, "I'm going to get you for that one." We're not going anywhere. In fact, we've got some great programming coming up. We've got Comic Palooza that we're going to be hitting again this year again. And the Skype test. Oh, so do you need to test it?
Do I need to test it?
I don't know. Let's see. Bear with us, everyone, because we're doing. We had to throw in a new computer. Go ahead and see if it rolls. Just test it and see. Not coming up because you're potted up. Is it the headphone? There you go. Testing 1 2. Okay, that sounds good. Welcome to Skype testing call. I've heard, and we've talked about this before, that Microsoft might be abandoning Skype. What's going on, Solana?
I don't like this. I want it to just stop trying to take photos and pictures and just let me move on to the next step.
Okay, yeah, the anti-photo. Okay, babe. Hello.
Just go on.
Go on. I need to tell you that anytime you hit the mic like that, it zeroes out the system because it's sensitive.
I wasn't trying to do that. I'm sorry.
I'm just letting you know. And this is the way our show usually starts, everyone. This is, K28 will tell you. When he had dinner with us, it's almost like watching the show live. And so I am going to pot her down while she does her thing over there. So is it coming along, Skype, Sola?
It's like you said, you had not ever installed it previously on this computer, so I had to go through all that.
Okay, well, so we're making headway. So, hey, while I'm thinking about this, Friday nights usually is Space Boy Music Night, but this next coming Friday night. Yeah, I did say Friday nights is usually Space Boy Music, but this next Friday is the first Friday of the month,
April 7th?
Yeah, April 7th, which will be Sweet Tea and Sarcasm, which Sirlana and her friend Soki, did I say that right?
Yeah, she's called herself Suki. I don't know if she does that.
Which is not your sister.
No, not my sister.
Which K28 thinks it is, but, it is not. And
I can't. I'm trying to log into Spreaker, but it keeps logging me in as you.
As
SBU Network. I can't log out because it's picking you up. You don't have another browser?
I only use Firefox.
Can I take this and just throw it across the room?
Log into IE.
I would rather starve under a bridge than use IE.
In order to fix this issue, you're going to need to log into IE because I don't use IE. I use IE for special occasions.
Well,
this is one of those special occasions.
Oh, God Almighty! It's just like being in a horror movie.
Well, anyway, so were you able to?
I don't even see IE anywhere.
Go down to Start, and this is wonderful.
No, go up to Start.
Okay, because I leave the browser on the top.
Because you're not from this planet.
Go to Start. In the search term,
there we go. I got the
IE, and then bring it up.
I don't have anything good to say right now.
Well, I'm trying to guide you through this.
I got it. I got it from here.
Now try to do the...
I got it. Okay. I got it.
Well, I'm just having a conversation with you. People who are listening. I mean, this... We apologize. We expected something a little bit better than what we're providing.
I didn't know it was going to just be fruit basket turnover.
Yeah,
So this is Comcast playing April Fool's on us, I think.
No, I don't think it's Comcast. I think it's our equipment is reaching its end of life.
Yeah, that was the beginning of it, wasn't it?
Yes. So
that was a terrifying noise.
Let's see here. I'm looking forward to. I heard that Disney is going to be coming out with Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet. Well, it's Ralph Breaks the Internet. It's if you like the original movie Wreck-It Ralph about the guy in the video game.
That was a cute movie.
Yeah, it was a cute movie. It's is going to, I guess, be unleashed on the internet, and he's going to wreak havoc on that. So that'll be interesting to see. When I was a kid, there was a movie called The Dark Crystal.
It scared me to death.
Yes, it was pretty dark as far as, I don't want to use the title, but it was dark as far as the actual movie. But I was fascinated by the movie, Jim Henson production. And I've heard rumors that they were going to make a sequel to this or something to that effect. And, you could talk to me, and I can help you, guide you through what technical issues. They don't call me the IT guru for nothing.
I logged into Spreaker under my Facebook account, and I typed in chat, and it's not there.
I'm more concerned at this point, is Skype working?
Let me see. Yeah, it's up and running.
Okay, and so now you're trying to log into Spreaker?
And I just typed into chat, and it's all just not happening.
Are you logging in as you, or
me.
Did you log out of there? Because I know it automatically sometimes will come up as the universe.
No,
I mean,
didn't.
the SBU. Okay.
Don't worry about it. If I don't chat, I don't chat. So
we're going to do something unprecedented at this time. We're going to take a musical interlude so that I can jump over to the other side and see what's going on with that computer. Let's enjoy this angsty medley that I call Stand and Fight.
Appropriate.
Fight.
So we did a little technical workings behind the scene to get things going. It almost gets to a point where we need a couple of unpaid interns to help us out, but it is what it is. So this leads me into a subject which I'm going to call that really gets my goat. So, today I went to go get a haircut. Solana got to sleep a little late, which is a rare event because usually I'm bugging her to get up because we have so many things to do in a weekend. And so I finally, I got a chance to go get my haircut. And I've been just dying to go because I've been looking like this hobo for the past several weeks now because I've been trying to grow my hair out a little bit to make it longer. Usually I cut it pretty short, kind of a buzz cut. But anyway, I get to the place called Great Clips. Now, before I get there, I'm like a minute or two out from getting to the location. I have an app that allows me to go ahead and, check in is what they have. It's a check-in app. So I check in and I pull up, get in there. There's already somebody in there. There's actually two people, this guy and this woman, and they've already got two people in the chairs cutting their hair, and they're finishing them up. So I get in there, and then this lady finishes up the man she's been working on, and she comes up to the thing, the register, and she starts asking the guy for his information that was to my right. And I said, well, I've already checked in. I'm on the board. And instead of acknowledging me, she just kind of blew me off and went to the other lady and asked her for her information. Instead of saying, hey, yeah, good morning, I got you here and whatever, just cold, bloody silence coming from her. I was so irate in the sense that, this woman just kind of blew me off the way she did. And then, of course, the lady to my left said, well, he's already checked in. And then the lady proceeded to go ahead and take the guy that had not checked in prior to getting there to take him next. And so I went ahead and walked out of there because I was so angry, so pissed. I've been going to this location for over 6 years. And, what's the point in having an app and allowing people to check in if they're going to, one, not be, seen as far as getting, next in line, and two, the customer service level that I got coming from this lady just, irked me beyond belief. So I ended up leaving because I didn't want to cause a scene. I was angry, as you can imagine, just like that guy from that movie Network, remember? I'm as mad as heck, and I'm not going to take it anymore. So I left there, and I went just down the street to another Great Clips. Now, I get there, and they bent over backwards. I didn't even tell them about my experience prior to coming to that location. I had, they bent over backwards. They treated me nicely. They asked me how I was doing, and that is the kind of customer service I felt like I should have gotten initially, and I didn't. And so that's why if you looked on our wall on our Twitter, you heard me kind of complain about Great Clips today, and I'm going to follow up with them because. Out of 6 years of going to a location, let's just say it was something else. You expect a certain level of customer service, and then you turn around and somebody just comes around like this woman did, didn't acknowledge me. Well, she did kind of acknowledge me, but she kind of like was not having any of it with me, and I wasn't giving her any attitude. So anyway, that's my segment of what gets my goat. All right, Solana. How are you doing over there now?
Huh? What?
I'm finished with my goat segment.
Okay. Well, I had heard that story before, so I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. Well, I thought maybe you had some interesting slant on it, but I guess we can go on to something else.
No, it's the haircut story.
So I know you're envious because you've been wanting to get your hair cut.
Yes, but mine is much more complicated.
Bob, goat is definitely the word. And Dino, he's quite tasty. So if, some of our banter, I got a chance to post a lot of this that we're going to talk about in the last few minutes we have here. Fans share their most twisted TV fan theories, and one of the fan theories that caught my eye that I just cracked up. I don't know how many of y'all remember Bob Ross, the painter. Do you remember Bob Ross?
Of course.
I'm just checking to see if we got a pulse here. Somebody posted, Bob Ross was a serial killer. Every painting was a clue to where he hid the bodies. That was just something that, on, I guess it's dorkily.com that they posted. So if you get a chance, go through the wall and definitely check that out. So, have you seen any UFOs lately, Solana?
I've never seen one. I wish... Well, I guess I shouldn't say that.
Well, I bring this up because Ridley Scott's Phoenix Forgotten gets a theatrical date and trailer. And what?
Say his name again?
Ridley Scott? Ridley Scott? I'm not saying Wrigley. Anyway, the movie's going to be nationwide on April 21st. It's interesting. It's kind of a, I'm not big on, I call it the Blair Witch movie-like things. And it's got that similar, where people were falling with the camera and bouncing this. And nothing worse than seeing something like that on an IMAX screen and to make you nauseous. But anyway, if you get a chance and you can watch it on a smaller screen, April 21st, they're going to roll that one out. He's just rolling stuff out. And it's Ridley Scott? Okay, just...
Ridley.
Ridley?
Ridley.
Ridley.
Not Ridley.
Ridley?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ridley. It's not, it's just 2 syllables.
Okay, well, we're moving on from there. So I'm, just journeying along. Solana, when I die, what would you want to do with my ashes?
Put them in a garlic press?
No. How about you could press me into an album, a vinyl album, that is.
You told me I couldn't do that because I'll already be dead.
Well, the thing is that, I'm trying to entertain the masses. So there's this company that will press your ashes into an album. And so you become an audio disc, so to speak, that can be played on a record player. It's kind of intriguing in the sense of, putting some Space Boy music on there and being able to play me on the album cover or the record player. So if I was an album player, would you play me?
Is this like if the moon...
If the moon was made of cheese, would you eat me? It's a simple question. Yeah, I know, we're about to lose it. And we haven't had any alcohol.
Not since August.
I was quite intrigued with the fact that you started off to, what was it, yesterday, wanting a margarita. That did sound pretty tasty, to be honest with you. So, we truck along to other subjects. So, have you played any games lately, Solana?
Yeah.
What games have you played?
I was playing mini golf on Steam.
Oh? And how's that treating you?
Well, I can see why those kids get so upset over it, screaming and cursing and having heart attacks.
Well, I got a chance to play that with you, and let me tell you, I hated it.
Well, you're using a Logitech trackball. That's not going to help you.
Well,
you need to go grab a normal mouse to do that.
But you don't. The way you hit that ball.
That particular game, there's no power meter. I found out what it is. It's how fast you move your mouse in a forward motion, and you can't really do that the same with your trackball. Yeah, but
I think the control thing for that game. I
mean, it's strange.
It looks nice visually. It looks nice.
Tower Unite looks nice too. Golf with Your Friends is the one that looks like a bad cartoon trip.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of other games, they're coming out with a Big Trouble in Little China game based upon the movie.
I never saw that movie, so I can't comment on that.
Yeah, it's a strategy with miniatures, and the average game allows about 1 to 4 players to experience the events they remember from the film. It was a pretty cool movie. It had... now I just brain farted, and I can't think of his name. I think it had... now I can't even think of her name.
It's the
Kim Cattrall is in it. She plays
it's the Curse of April 1st.
Kim Cattrall is in that movie, and I'm trying to think of, what's his Kurt Russell. God, how could I forget his name? Kurt Russell. But anyway, it's fun for 1 to 4 people, and I'm sure if you're playing it by yourself, then nerd. So, Star Trek news. Star Trek Discovery cast Rainn Wilson as Harry Mudd. And now I know you don't know who he is.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm. He was in The Office. I didn't watch The Office, but I still know who he is.
I love that movie, or show. But
he was in Galaxy Quest as one of the aliens.
That is true.
He was not. I think he was in the limo scene. He had a speaking part, and then I think he was, there. But after that, he kind of dropped
faded,
off.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting pick. That's still. Let me ask you this: do you think I'm going to watch Star Trek Discovery?
Yeah, you probably will.
Oh my God!
I won't.
I'm still torn whether I'm going to watch it or not. And
I just whatever.
So, what do you know about the Wendy's McDonald's beef?
It's a lot of fun to look at on Twitter.
Wendy's
has been doing the SmackDown.
Wendy's has game, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Whoever is doing these tweets with Wendy's is just hilarious. I was going to quote one of these tweets that had went out. Basically, McDonald's comes out that they're announcing that by mid-2018, all their quarter-pounder burgers at majority of their restaurants will be cooked with fresh beef. And then, of course, Wendy's comes back and says, so you still using frozen beef in most of your burgers at all your restaurants? Just asking for a friend. I thought that was pretty funny as far as this beef is going back and forth, pardon the pun. So,
yeah, that has been entertaining.
Let me ask you this. Do you remember the TV show Max Headroom?
I do, and I really need to cough bad. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Do you got a beverage over there?
Yeah, but I still need to do it.
I will drink. I think we maybe need to open the studio door when it gets kind of stuffy in here. Usually I'm the one that's coughing like left and right.
Mine muffin coming in.
So anyway, Max Headroom. Mm-hmm. Remember the show? What do you remember?
Yes. I remember Max Headroom himself before the show because he was sort of a phenomenon, I think, before. And with the Art of Noise, mm-hmm. They had like a couple of things together. I was really much too young to get Max Headroom, the TV show, but I have seen maybe 3 episodes bootleg that I can find online now, and now I kind of, get it better. I wish I could see the rest of it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like I think their catchphrase was 20 minutes into the future kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
And I used to watch it myself, of course. Once again, I can't remember the woman that was in it. And if you can remember that name of that lady that was in it.
Just IMDb.
I think it was Amanda Peet. I could be wrong. But speaking of other gorgeous women of sci-fi, did you ever watch Buck Rogers?
I vaguely recall it from my childhood. I remember being on TV, but I don't remember anything stuck out to me or have any memories or feelings about it.
Well, I used to love that show. And then one day I saw a picture of the robot and Twiggy. And I came to some conclusions the other day and shared it with you.
Is that his name? Really?
Twiggy? Doo-doo-doo. Beady. And his head looks kind of phallic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it was because they had that hairstyle. A lot of women had that the hair that came down and into a certain spot like that.
You need not elaborate.
But the robot, at least it looked better on most women during that time, late 70s, early 80s.
What, helmet hair?
Well, it was a style back then at that time. That hairstyle and the big rim glasses. Who's a perfect example of the glasses I'm thinking of is what's her name from Stranger Things?
Oh, poor Barb.
Yeah, poor Barb. We keep a
justice for Barb.
Justice for Barb. But big glasses like that. But anyway, I'm afraid
Sally Jesse Raphael glasses.
This is, I don't know if they intentionally made his head look that way, but it definitely is provocative. So, hey, look at the time. It's time to go into break, everybody. And we are so glad that you tune into Spaceboy Universe. And when we come back, we're going to have Patrick-Sporer, and it's going to be a great evening. So don't go anywhere. And believe it or not, we are back, and Solana hasn't killed me for one reason or another, and it is a great evening. So, do you have the pre-script, or do I have the pre-script?
Well, 1 second. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I wasn't, we were so busy trying to...
How do I connect here? Oh, here we go. Hold on 1 second.
Believe it or not, we do have our acting... Oh, Yeah, go
There it
ahead.
is.
You got it?
I'm getting there. Just give me a second. I got to connect to the network drive.
Bear with us, Patrick. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, keep it simple.
And
Well, here,
documents.
let's
Hold
just
on,
keep.
I'm almost there.
I was going to say, I'm ready to keep it simple if he wants us to keep it simple.
Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, keep it simple. I get embarrassed by all that build-up.
Look, hey, everybody, it's Patrick-Sporer. Hey!
Grab your milk
perfect.
and cookies.
So, Patrick, it's been a little time since we had you on last. I'm looking at the calendar on behind Solana. We had you back in December 10th was the last time you were on the show. And, of course, we just, as a big friend of the show, we just had to have you back, and here you are.
Yes, and thank you. This is my 4th time on your show.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
4th time, and I want to thank you and Solana for having me as a guest. I don't do many of these shows, but I look forward to yours because you guys make me feel at home and make me feel very relaxed.
Well, we try to do that.
Just like I'm sitting there at your house with you.
Yeah, and I'm eating a bowl of Jell-O, and Solana is filing her nails.
Right, that's fine. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. But I want to welcome all your space cadets, old and new, to the show. And some of them may know me, some of them might not. But I try to bring something different every time that you guys have me on. I think that's been consistent. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like I said, it's always a treat because more so lately is every time you've come on, it's been something different, and it's always fun.
Right, and of course my forte is dreams and predicting the future and lotto numbers and all that good stuff. But before we came on the air there, I was telling you about what I did in the 90s. Is I decided, and it was sort of a spontaneous thing, I decided that I was going to start recording all the different psychic readings and astrologers and numerologers and readers of the dead and et cetera, that I encountered. And I ended up visiting probably or communicating with over 100 different people during that 10-year period. And I was telling you that what happened with the tape that your audience is going to listen to tonight, that tape had gotten somehow put in there that had nothing to do with psychic readings or anything like that. So what happened is I was cleaning up, doing spring cleaning, and I found that tape. And I said, wow, this is going to be great for the next Space Boys show. And that tape is a result of a regression that I had, a hypnotic regression, in 1994. And during that regression, there was this strange voice that came out of nowhere. And it ended up on the tape, as you guys have witnessed, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And I had my own ideas what it might have been. I don't get too far out there on the limb with all this stuff because I really don't know what it is. That's why I think it'll be interesting for your audience to listen to it and give feedback through chat or whatever on what they think it might be. And we're going to play that a little later on after I set up the story.
Sure.
But set up the story. But anyway, so in 1994, I owned a bodybuilding gym, as you guys will know, for many, many years. Mm-hmm. But I always like to try to bring a different dimension to things, and so I thought I wanted to get certified as a hypnotist so that I could use that to help within the gym with the athletes I was working with, because I had a lot of amateur and professional athletes that trained in it. And, I've always been a motivator. I've always been on teams and stuff like that. And I always thought, well, this will just give me one dimension. Of course, I was always interested in hypnosis anyway to see if it was valid or really worked. Well, this was, when I decided to do this, I got an invitation, and it was to one of those mini clinics where you could be certified like 2 or 3 days. And it was a recognizable organization that was putting on the certification, and it was in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, that's about close to 200 miles from where I live, but interesting enough, that's where I was born. I was born on a military base called Maxwell Air Force Base. Any of your space cadets that were in the military or know anything about that would be very aware of that Air Force Base. So it was interesting that I'm going back to this place, and it was taking place at this, what they, where they do the metaphysical meetings. I'm sure you have plenty of those in the Houston area.
Oh, yeah.
And they have one or two here. But it was like it was an old church they had converted into this metaphysical meeting center where they were putting this on. And when I got there was a class of maybe 20 to 30 people. And through that weekend, there was all these, the lady that was in charge, she acted like she knew me right away, when I walked into the place. And she started noticing all this bizarre activity was happening around them. Like suddenly the power was going on and off. There was flashes of light. Now I'm not saying this had anything to do with me, but you know how it is when somebody comes in and people start saying, oh, maybe he's the guy that caused this to happen and stuff like that. Plus many of the people that I teamed up with through we had to do one-on-one hypnotic sessions with one another, were, having these interesting experiences, and one of them was a guy that I was teamed up with. He was an actual preacher. I found that interesting because I asked him. I said, "Well, now, what would you need to know hypnosis for?" And he said, "Well, I counsel people all the time." I was trying to make a joke of it to him, like, "Oh, I know you're hypnotizing everybody to put more money on the collection plate and stuff." And he laughed about all that. But one of the sessions I took him down into later when he came back from lunch, he said, "You're not going to believe this," but he said, "When you told me what I was going to see in the future," he said, "I saw the exact thing that you told me. It was an old clock," and I described the clock prior to him going to lunch and all of this stuff. And so he started spreading that around to everybody. He said, "Hey, you need to hook up with this guy." He said, I saw this. It's incredible." He said, "I don't know what triggered it, but he said, I saw this clock. I saw the time." He said, "I even glanced at it, and it was on the exact time he told me it was going to be." So this is the kind of thing that was going around the room. So later on, the lady that was running the seminar and ran the metaphysical church, she said, "Hey, I have a friend that I think you would like to talk to. He said he does regression hypnosis for contactees, UFOs, things like that." And I said, "Well, wait a minute." I said, "I don't think I've ever had one of those encounters, other than the little person or whatever that was when I was a kid in Colorado Springs." And she said, I think I talked to him about you, and he said that he would do a regression for you for nothing, and just to find out, what's going on with you." And I said, "Okay, well, I've never had one done." I said, "I don't know what to expect," but I said, I'll do that. So it took place after the seminar was over, and nobody wanted to leave. Everybody wanted to stay to watch this regression. So there was probably 20 people. And I asked the facilitator, I said, "Hey," his name was Barry. I said, "Is this going to affect the regression in any way?" He said, "No, it shouldn't," and everything, nothing. He said, "It should be fine." So when I laid down and got into the trance and all that, this dream that I had from a couple of years before this situation about being on an underwater UFO, I was describing it because I remember the dream was so strong. I've never forgotten this. And I was talking about these large ships, and one of them I was on, and I was describing it. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, the voice that you guys heard on the tape, that thing came out of nowhere, out of thin air. Now, I didn't come out of the trance, but I remember I got quiet because of what I thought it said, which I'll talk about later. But the thing is that then the guy continued, and I thought, well, obviously they didn't hear it because there wasn't any gasp and there wasn't anybody saying anything. I think everybody was trying to remain very quiet about the whole situation. So you have, I think that was about 10 minutes into the trance, into the regression. I think you guys have about a minute clip of that because I didn't want to have to play the whole thing. So I sent you about a minute or two where the voice is very, very clear, at least on the tape that I sent you. It came out very nice on my end. I'm assuming it did on your end.
Yes, and the transfer went successful, and we can't wait to play these clips and talk about them. Yeah,
so anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. So that was the first one, and then later on in the regression went on for almost an hour, and there was that voice came back again at a different point, and again, I don't know what it said that time. Well, when I came out of the regression, the first thing I said was, "Hey, did you guys hear a voice?" And nobody said a word. They were all looking at me like they'd seen a ghost. And I said, "Did you guys hear it?" And they said, "Yeah, we heard it." Where did it come from? Because immediately I started looking around to see if there were any windows open, to see if anything might have, come from the outside. That's 94. I don't recall anybody having cell phones or anything like that. And of course, they wouldn't have brought them in there or used them during the regression. The cassette player was not one of those combination radio type cassettes. You know what I'm talking about from back then, the olden days? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just a cassette recorder. And there were no electronic, no TVs, nothing like that in the building at all. Because they made sure, they said, "Look, we'll show you around." I said, "Man, that thing was loud and clear." But it didn't just come over, guys, it didn't just come over the tape. It was heard by everybody. Now, this thing just burst into the air from somewhere and ended up on the tape, and that's what we're going to hear tonight. And it should be interesting for your audience and to see what your chat thinks about it. And then, of course, we can cover anything else that you guys want to talk about as far as recent dreams and things that predict. But really, the truth is, as far as the dreams go, I've had my blog for over 10 years now, and the numbers are growing all the time worldwide. So obviously people do enjoy it. I get a lot of positive feedback. And I have actually some email questions that I may read later on.
Okay.
People sent in that said they might not be able to listen to the show because they live overseas, during, the hours or whatever. So anyway, there we go, guys. So what would we like to move on to next?
Well, I can give you the breakdown. This would be the intro, getting to know you section, and then we were going to come back from our break and we'll talk specifically about those audio clips and listen to them. And then after that, we'll come back and I want to talk about some specific dreams that are recent from your blog. And then the last hour to half hour, I want to pick your brain about a show that we did last week about mind control, and then just sort of freeform from there. So that's kind of how I have it structured.
Are there going to be any call-ins tonight, or did you fix your scenario
I think we could do it now that this laptop's back to normal.
We'll see about getting during the break the getting everything patched back together where it should be. I think she's running full cylinders across over there from me, so yeah, we'll definitely. I'm assuming that's you would like to take some calls if that's possible, correct?
Oh, sure. I always like to hear from the space cadets and their thoughts and questions they have.
We'll make it happen.
I wanted to add one thing. What came out of that? The preacher and I bonded during that time, and he ordained me as a minister in 1994. But I don't use the moniker, and I've never used it for anything. But that's actually from a church. That's not from an online, one of those online things where you can be ordained. But I've never used the term reverend. And guys, I'm not a religious guy. I even joke with people I'm not really a spiritual guy based on spirituality in America today. But the thing is, it was interesting. And I was looking at the certificate here, and he said, well, you can use this if you want to counsel people, or say you want to work with people that if you go to prisons and you want to work with people there, you can use this card and it'll get you in there. I didn't ever ask him about the tax, implications of using all those things, because there's stuff like that. But so I just had a hard time thinking the Reverend Patrick-Sporer. It just didn't seem to have a ring to it.
Well, it definitely does sound interesting, at the very least. But I did want to share something with you. And this past Friday, and in fact, that was yesterday, wouldn't it be? Is that I looked up just out of nowhere, and I saw this billboard, and it had Willy Wonka on it. and follow me on this, Patrick. There is a connection somewhat. And it was a new game that was being put out there by the Texas Lotto. And so Lotto, I immediately thought about you in that sense, and I thought, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I need to, buy this lotto ticket thing or the scratch off. And personally, I haven't really done much scratch offs. I can't even remember the last time I had a scratch off that I played. I mean, I did the lotto there for a while, but picking numbers and things. But so today, I planned a trip to the place where I usually gas up in the morning, where I could see the billboard. Go in and buy 2 of these Willy Wonka ticket scratch off things, and won $20 off of it. And then I bought another $10 one and won another $10 off of that one. So I wanted to share my little lotto scratch-off thing with you and just get your reaction to that.
Oh, I love that. I love those stories. I always put a caveat to when you start playing the lotto. It's not about losing, it's about winning. Because when you win, you have such an endorphin rush that you automatically think, well, how can I recreate this scenario so that I'll win again? And so I always say that as a warning, that you did this once, maybe that's a good thing to say, okay, I'm not going to play it anymore, I won, and that's it. But what it does show is how you looked at that billboard, and then you automatically coincided it with this game, right? Because it was the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just went with your gut and you played it. Now, you only played, what, $2?
No, well, it's a $10 ticket.
Oh, a $10 game. Okay, yeah. So you decided to play $10 and you won 20, so you won your money back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you played another $10 and you won 10 more dollars. So
yes.
you profited $10.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Now listen. I've read so many stories about people who win the lotto. Of course, here I know this game backwards and forwards here in Florida, but I'm not a big scratch-off player. Now, one time I was, before I got into playing the Pick 3 and Pick 4 games. I did the same thing you did. I would have these intuitive sparks driving down the highway, see something, and then suddenly I would turn on the radio and I would hear the game that was, and I would drive into the next convenience store I saw, buy that scratch off, and without a doubt there was a winner. So yeah, I would tell anybody these are, and this works with everything. This works with everything, that intuitive nudge. So yeah, I think you'll probably win again, maybe even bigger the next time.
Well, let's.
But don't. Whatever you do, never force it. Just let it flow to you, just like you did this.
And, and you bring that up, and, I guess I can use this example, but it's been a while since we've done this. When we went to Vegas, or even when we went to Lake Charles to do some gambling, Solana and I, we only spend, well, for me personally, I say I'm going to spend this $20, and that's all I'm going to spend. And Solana actually did pretty good in Vegas.
I got $120 off of a random.
But you started off with 20. And you made all that money in Vegas, and
had to pay our cab fare to go get married.
And then then when I was doing nickel slots and playing, I guess it was match game 74 or something like that, and won $36 off of that. It was like, okay, won the money, I'm done, walking away, and of course, free drinks for the rest of the evening.
Of course, the biggest gamble was getting married.
Oh yeah, that was. We're still looking at the odds on that one.
Yeah, that's always a gamble, isn't it?
It is, but it's proved to be rewarding in the sense it's entertaining the masses, and that's all that matters to me. If we're entertaining, then by all means, people tune into us.
I'm sure the first 10 minutes of this show was really entertaining.
Hey, I wanted to ask you a question to segue out of this, but I've been meaning to ask this ever since I've seen Dennis Koch's name. Is he related to Howard W. Koch, the great movie producer, in any way?
Well, I guess we'll find out if he chimes in.
I've always been curious.
He's in chat. We'll just wait and see if he says anything.
Yeah. I'm looking to see if he replies. If he's a distant, maybe a distant relative, or maybe even he knows him, because he was a big time producer in Hollywood, and his son, I think, went on to produce as well.
Well, I know that Dennis is an avid writer, and he knows many TV and movie writers. that would be interesting if there is a connection there. So
yes, well, everybody in some way in my life, I'm seeing connections. When I look at these, there's another part of this lotto aside from just the dreams. In the many years I've been studying it, it's amazing to see how people that I dream about have numbers from their birthdays. People that have, like, recently, there's a friend of mine who lives in New York. I had a dream of her, and then I had a dream of another guy. He lives in Alabama. These two people are friends. But the most interesting part, on both of their last birthdays, the exact numbers hit. This is not uncommon. I've seen this with family members. I've seen this with everything else. It's so interesting, all the other things I've discovered, but there'll be for another show we can talk about. I mean, there's so many different dimensions to all this. It's just really incredible. So we're definitely all connected in some strange way, not sounding like a cliche. I mean, if you really uncover things and you think about stuff, if you could really, it's just like when my mother passed away, I found a lot of my parents' old mail and addresses and everything else, and I started noticing that the addresses that they lived at coincided with birthdays of former girlfriends. I mean, just incredible stuff out there. And you guys have these. Everybody has these things. If you're just, you start studying these things, you'll see how many connections. Oh, I wanted to ask you something, Space Boy. Have you been watching Legion on FX?
No, I have not been watching that. I've been actually, to be honest with you, I've been binge watching Naval CSI. Serlana laughs at me. She's like,
it keeps him occupied, so I can do other things.
Yeah. So, but Legion, you say? Tell me about this.
Yeah, Legion. It's a Marvel, obviously a Marvel comics. I didn't know that, but it's an 8-part series, and it just ended. So it should be coming on Netflix or something possibly soon. But you, I don't want to say anything about it. I think you would really like it.
Okay.
It's sci-fi. It's all kind. It's really real well done. And I saw the writer the other night I think it was on Jimmy Kimmel, and this guy is a young guy. He's an incredible writer, and he was talking about this show he works on. He works on Fargo. He's created. Noah Hawley is his name. But I also wanted to bring attention to you that last night the Discovery started on Netflix, the Robert Redford movie about is there an afterlife?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're space cadets, and I think you both would really like it. I had it kind of figured out in the first 5 minutes of the movie what's going on, but that's because of another reason. When I was looking at it, I said, "Oh, wait a minute! I think I see how this is going to wrap up and end." But Jason Segel is also in it. Are you familiar with him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and was it Rooney Mara? Are you familiar with her?
Yeah, she was in Prometheus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. Rooney Mara was in the.
You're thinking of. I know who you're thinking of.
Yeah, she was in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
That's right.
Yeah.
You could speak.
No.
Anyway, so hey, we reached the top of the hour, Patrick. So let me take the break now, and we come back. We will talk about the clips that you have that you've sent to us, and we'll get into that subject matter and go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So don't anybody touch that dial. We'll be right back. listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU Network, and that's the SBU Network. Is it SBUN.com, Sir Lana? I know. I don't.
How do you not know this?
It's on my other script. I
did type your new script. SBUnetwork.com.
What was that again?
SBUnetwork.com.
And when people want to go to that site, what do they see?
They should see 3 players that have the 3 of the shows.
That we
3 out of 4 shows that we produce, because I haven't updated that site yet.
So, in other words, when they tune in to that site, they can hear the Quantum Hologram Matrix, this show, Spaceboy Universe, and then Spaceboy Music.
Yes, I'll get on the next one tomorrow.
Awesome. So, tonight we have Patrick-Sporer, and man, do we love him. I know that the Space Cadets love to hear from him. So, Patrick, you sent me a tape. Do you want to kind of give me some, give the audience a little bit about this, and then we can start playing these samples?
Sure. Yeah. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this was from a regression, a hypnotic regression from 1994 that took place in Montgomery, Alabama, and I was there for the hypnosis certification program, and I met these people, and then I ended up meeting this gentleman who does hypnotic regressions for contactees, UFOs, things like that. And so the part of the tape that your audience is going to get to listen to is the portion where this strange voice came out of basically nowhere.
Now, I must tell our audience now that what Patrick doesn't know is I had an opportunity to take the clip that he gave me and reversed it. And we definitely found some interesting things in that. But shall we play that clip now, Patrick?
Sure.
All right, here we go.
Me or affect me except for the UFO dreams. The UFO dreams sometimes are very peaceful, and then sometimes they're very, very horrifying. Now, I have no recollection of being on a... Yes, I do. I have a recollection of being on a craft.
Explain it to me.
It was traveling at extremely high speeds. It was huge. It was traveling under the water.
How do you know it was high speeds?
It's like I could look out a porthole. I could see. It was an incredible machine. It was being manned by human beings, though. It wasn't. They were not alien creatures of some origin. They were human. This ship was enormously huge, and there were other ships.
Tell me damn, come by the scene. How fast do you think it was cool?
It was, they were traveling so rapidly. It was, and there was, like I said, I can't even begin to fathom the speed.
So there you go. There's the clip that Patrick sent me to change into digital format. Did you want to elaborate about that before we move on? And well, let me play this real quick here.
Tell me damn, come by the scene.
There's the clip of the. There's actually 2 voices that stand out in this clip, Patrick, that I heard. The other one's kind of lighter than the, and I apparently don't have it loaded here, but I did pump up the audio on the original clip so you could actually hear it. But that main audio that really stands out is this.
Tell me damn, come by the scene.
So let's take it from there and talk about that, and then a little bit. I want to play the original clip in reverse, and then let's pick that apart and discuss that. So it's all yours, Patrick.
Okay. That was the guy with the low voice. That was Barry. That was the guy that was putting me through the regression. That voice, that thing that came out of that electronic voice or whatever, to me, when I was in the trance, it sounded like to me, like it said, quit talking about those damn ships. That's what it sounded like to me. Now, when I came out of the trance, the first thing I asked everybody is, hey, who was playing the CB radio, because that's what it kind of sounded like to me.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and that's when everybody went, they put their hands out and had this ghostly look on their faces, and they said, we don't know what that was. And that's when I went about looking to see if the window was open and a truck might have gone by, or what could possibly, because they said it was in the air. They said it came, it wasn't just on the tape. It was in the room. It came out in the room that we were in. So I don't know, I know very little about ghost stuff. I know what I've seen on TV, and I've heard people talk about these, what is it called, EVP, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, extra.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's that or not, but it was, it stunned everybody. And then again, later on, through the rest of the regression, it came up one more time, but it was later on in the tape.
But you said it wasn't being picked up through equipment while this was happening. You heard it like in the room with you, like somebody was almost speaking it.
Exactly.
But it did sound like distorted CB interference.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's the first thing when I heard it. That's the exact thing I said, because you got to remember, I'm not going to just go, oh wow, what was that? Where there's a ghost room. I don't do that kind of stuff. I like to investigate and say that it had to come out of somewhere. And then first of all, because I heard it out loud, I wasn't aware that they heard it at the time until I came out of the trance. And then I asked everybody. I said, hey, who did any of you make that sound? Did they? That's when they were all going, oh, look, we heard it too. And then the guy said, well, let's play it back and make sure it came out on the tape, and it did.
Now, once again, the equipment that you're using is just your basic tape recorder. And for the younger generation out there, let's describe what we're talking about. We're not talking about a boom box. And I guess I should describe that to the younger generation again, too.
I don't think they're that young.
Well, we're talking about a little cassette recorder. Play, record, rewind, fast forward. Think like a CD player, but instead of a CD, you have a cassette. And it's probably like a rectangular box shaped. Would you agree to that, Patrick?
Well, yeah, it was like I have an old Panasonic with the little handle and stuff that I got when I was in the Army. That still works, by the way. And it was like that, sort of like that kind of cassette player.
And so, in my years, and let me just to describe, since I'm kind of an audiophile person, dealing with audio, I have been in a situation where when I worked in fast food, we had this joker that would pull up to the restaurant close by, and he would have a CB that was so powerful that it would broadcast over the intercom system through our, where you go to order, and it would just blare through. And it sounds similar to that, and I'm not saying that is the thing, but that's the only instance I can recall where I've seen where you've had CB chatter that's similar to that. Now, in the many years I've had cassette players like that, I have not seen anything like that interfere with a cassette player like this situation is being played out. And I find that fascinating because you were describing how there was not really anything else in the room that could cause that interference. It just came out of nowhere. And the fact that, what you say the guy is saying, it intrigues me because, I picked up a few words in there, but when you say what you've just said about what he's saying, I can definitely hear it now than I could before.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I wish I wrote everybody's name down. I wish we could have videotaped it because it would have been fascinating to secure their reactions. I should have done a lot of things to stay in touch with those people about that because they were all really shocked by it. And as I was after I came out, because like I said, the first thing I said to them was, "Hey, who had the CB radio?" That's the first thing I said, and they all looked at me, with this stunned look and said, "Look, This thing came out of thin air. This thing was, we heard it. We all heard it. And it didn't come out through the cassette player. It just was in the air. It was like, what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and I haven't played that for too many people. I haven't played it on any other show, so it's debut to you. But I thought your audience, trying to bring something new to each show, I thought your audience would enjoy that, and I would love some feedback on it as to what they may think. Now, people that are into, there's a lot of people that are probably into the ghosts and the EVPs. They might look at this and say, well, that's this or that's that, which would be surprising for somebody to just cast it off that way without knowing what you guys know about it now, how it was all set up. And I'm not one of these people that need to hoax people or try to doctor a tape. My God, I don't have the skills to do that stuff to begin with. So I just thought it would be interesting for your audience. I doubt I'll play for anybody else. I mean, you guys might want to at some point. If you run into if you have anybody on a show that deals with these type of things, you may want to play it for them and say, hey, this is a guest of ours that's been on, and this is this. So, can you tell us what this is? Maybe they'll see it as something extraordinary.
Well, let alone the voice phenomenon that we're hearing on the sample you provided us. Which, thank you, by the way, we appreciate that. Just hearing you talk at the beginning is kind of like, we hear this little clip about this regression. Is like, wow, this is fascinating. I wanted to hear more about it. But, I want to segue from that to, I did take the opportunity to reverse the clip. And I'm going to play it now, and I'm going to share some of the words that I'm actually hearing through this clip. So if everyone will pay close attention, here we go.
Sure that around that you healed simmer on you selfish. And we around there on the sofa. Search your nearly it on her with. And so well as near me. Yeah, but I am gives it. Most of the nation will whatever is it is the guy. Oh, but I will take back as it guy. All the night virus to it. Should we so is the Sahil mirrors getting a virus to it? It must be outside. The fire can give a skull curve with the safe can on you. When the skull curve on that. The dive fell. Yeah, for all here is fears, there's nothing in them. All of sea fears. Smash must near to a fight. Near to a fight, the first game got through.
So, while we're playing it back, and something that we didn't notice before was
I hear a third layer.
A third layer that was underneath there, and I don't
think it was the man who was.
No, the one that, speaking of the loud voice, that phenomenon that we hear that's loud and prominent in the normal direction, it almost sounds like he's saying megabyte. But some of the words, just let me throw these at you, and Solana will definitely tell you the one she definitely heard out of this list is, I hear the word signals, selfish, sofa, but here's the good one. We hear the word alien.
He and I both heard alien, even while yours backwards.
Very distinctive, hearing it reverse. And I got on, when you sent me the clip, I had been doing some research on reverse speech phenomenon. Thinking about probably getting a guest on to kind of talk about that. And I thought, I wonder if I play this clip backwards, if I'm going to hear something. And sure enough, I pick up those set of words, and then, of course, hearing the main clip of the guy that, which we're talking about, I hear megabyte, and I haven't really had a chance to kind of slow that down yet. I know you just mentioned it while we were playing the clip, and everybody else was listening to slow it down. I think at some point I'm going to go back and revisit this and slow it down to see if I can pick some other things.
This is the first time I've heard it with headphones on, and I heard a third layer. I mean, I could pick out the guy who was talking to you through the regression. I picked out yours. I heard the distorted voice, and I swear I heard, I guess this will be a fourth thing, not a third thing, an almost soft feminine sounding layer.
So this is definitely worth going back over, and you know, I can probably do some more EQ adjusting and eliminating more hiss out of it to kind of focus on the voices that are very nominal in what Sirlana is describing. And both of us, you know, it was one thing hearing it in, you know, forward, but when we reversed the of
course, everything's freaky in reverse.
Yeah, everything's freaky in reverse, but so distinctive. I mean, you're talking about alien abduction, and hearing it in reverse, you hear the word alien distinctively come out. And so it was definitely fascinating, Patrick. And your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, now in the regression, that part you're talking about the electronic voice, not anything else, right?
No, not only the electronic voice, but when we're reversing, I guess it's you know, talking in reverse, saying keywords like signals, selfish, sofa. And alien, let me ask you this, when you were doing this regression, were you laying down on a sofa, or were you... Yeah, I was laying on a sofa. Well,
exactly.
and I'm not going to just say, there you go, but it just does seem a little bizarre.
Just to be devil's advocate,
play the devil's advocate.
We
here.
may just be hearing things we want to hear because they sound similar to something, you know,
familiar.
Well,
it was like a sofa, you know, it wasn't a sofa bed, but that's what it reminded me of. But it was flat, but I think they used it, you know, if people wanted to sit in there, because it was like this room where people could go in there and like read or whatever they wanted to do. It was a quiet room, but I do mention aliens in that dream. I know I mentioned it in the. There was a little bit of soundbite where I actually do mention that they didn't look like alien creatures; they looked more like humans. But you're saying in the reverse. There's a distinctive aliens in there.
Yes, there's a distinctive aliens word that, I mean, it's alien.
We would have to go back later and pick out the time index for you so you could go back and
listen to it.
Do you have the digital version of this, Patrick, or is it something Spaceboy did?
He sent me the tape, and I...
Yeah, I got it off. I have the original cassette tape, and I made a copy for Spaceboy.
So you could send him back a flash drive with a digital, and he could have the MP3s forever.
Exactly, I could do that.
Yeah.
So he could sit down and listen.
Okay, sure, great, thank you.
Yeah,
I had to think for a minute if you were talking to him or me. Yeah, okay. But yeah, I again, I know this seems a little off topic of the normal talking about dreams and synchronicity and all the other things that I'm involved in, but I want people to know that this isn't the only thing I've studied. I got a pretty broad base in the metaphysical realm because it's intrigued me since I was a child. But I've never, as far as I know, I've never had an abduction. I've never seen an actual UFO other than in my dream world. In my dream world, I've been on craft, but it's like I was telling Solaris, I have never seen in the dreams that these craft were being operated by alien creatures. It's always been human beings or human-like beings.
I wanted to ask you, so you went through this regression, and of course the first thing you talk about is what was that voice. So once you got past that, do you remember what you were thinking or feeling right after you came out?
Not really. I didn't really, it was just a first-time thing for me. I'll tell you honestly, I'm not really sure until I listened to the tape later. I really didn't feel like it's something I need to do all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, because there was a lot of stuff. If you heard the whole tape, there was a lot of different things that came out. I mean, there was like time travel in there. There was like he was sending me back and forth, past lives, all these different things. And I've always had a difficult time with all that. I'm not saying it's not real, but so I think you guys know me well enough that I'm very careful about getting too far out on the limb with anything. I like to bring the scientific part back to it and try to study it and think about it. Even sharing this tape with me, I was hesitant at first. In fact, before I sent it to you, I go, maybe I shouldn't even do this because somebody's going to say, oh, that's rigged or that's hoaxed or something like that. And then I started thinking, well, I don't have anything to gain from it because it's just like, I'm not selling a book. I promote.
What year was this when this happened?
1994, or right, 1994?
That was summer of 94, July of 94.
Well, Patrick, I think we know you fairly well now through interviews and just personally getting your emails and your correspondence. And I can feel like I could say that I believe you. And because you don't come across to us as some con artist or somebody that's trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. I feel that both Solana and I feel that you're very genuine in what you tell, and that you make it a point that that you are not that kind of person.
No, I'm all about physical evidence, guys. And my good friend George, he admires that about me. He knows that I wouldn't even do this blog. He's known me for years. He was my wrestling coach. He's known me since I was a kid. And I share a lot of this information with him, and that I don't share with a lot of other people because I said, George, this kind of things happen to me. Now, all of my former girlfriends would tell you that freaky things happened all the time in our relationships. Stuff that just scared them. I'm not just talking about predicting the future, but there are some interesting stories through dreams, things I found out. But just crazy stuff that would go on in the places I would live. I was telling this, in fact, this is very interesting. Do we have a moment to talk, or do you want to break?
Yeah, we got a few more minutes here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just posted a dream, I think it was yesterday, or the day before. My mother was in the dream. Now, my mother's passed on, and I dream about my parents usually 2 or 3 times a month. And they're very vivid dreams, very clear dreams. They appear at different ages of life. And this particular dream, I was in the house that my parents lived in before they passed on. It had 2 different addresses. And when we first moved in there, it was 2503, and then it turned to 2647. Now, interesting, after I've had dreams about them in the house, those 4-digit numbers would come in on the Florida Lotto within a couple of days. This is routine. I've got all this stuff documented. But in this dream, this time, now when I got out of the Army, I slept in it's like a living room, but it's like an extra room that they had that I used until I got my own place. And one night, while I had dozed off, suddenly the front door of our house just flies open. Now that door was locked and bolted, and I mean, I just jumped up. It's almost like I levitated up in the mattress I was sleeping on because I was so terrified by this door just suddenly swinging open, and nobody else in the family got up. And I was like, gosh, I don't even want to know if I'm going to go to the door. So I was telling my mom that story in the dream, guys, the dream that I just had. Now, I went over and I said, Mom, whatever you do, don't open this front door. But she said, oh, I want to inspect the door. You said the door's swung open. It might be damaged. And I said, no, Mom. And she opened the door just a crack, and I said, don't open it. Now, what's strange is I heard somebody whistling outside in the dream, and then suddenly I looked across the street, and there's this blue flashing light at the neighbors across the street's home. But there's no police car or anything. There's just a blue beam of light that is flashing on and off. So I quickly closed the door. And then this is how fragmented all these dreams are. And I know Solana understands it because she's an extreme dreamer like me. But yeah, well, I mean, you are, right? You have these very vivid, real dreams, and I appreciate you talking about that because I know there are a lot of people like us that have these dreams, but they can't make heads or tails out of them a lot of times. But in my experience, I've come to find out that they're very fragmented, and that I have to go in there after a dream and I have to pull out all the different fragments. Like my mother, my late mother who's dead, I have to go in there and immediately, 99.9% of the time when I dream of dead people, it doesn't matter if it's celebrities or people I know it's going to be Florida Lotto related. It happens routinely. And the other thing it is, the smaller percentage of that is I'm either going to hear about somebody I know passing, which could be a friend or a relative. And that has happened more than once as well. And those are relatives on my mother's side that ended up dying. So it's very possible that I could hear about, somebody on her side that passes away soon. Now, what I did is I went on, because that house was sold, so we have no connection to that home anymore. But what I did is I went on Google Maps because I wanted to see the address of the house across the street if it had changed. In Google Maps, as you well know, you guys can zoom in and out, and I zoomed in and I saw the address, and I put that in the dream post as well because it's a 4-digit number, and it's possibly that, as I call the dream weaver or the subconscious, I say, well, the blue light flashing, maybe it was trying to get my attention to their home in those last 4 digits. Or it's very possible that there could be some criminal activity to happen at that particular home in the near future. Now, time frame-wise, in the same dream, I looked back into the room where I normally would have slept, and there were 2 gigantic Christmas trees in there with gifts all over the place of various sizes. And I turned to my mother in the dream and I said, Mom, you live here by yourself. Who are all these gifts for? Why 2 Christmas trees? And she sort of looked back and looked at me and she shrugged her shoulders. The dream ended at that point. Now, I use that is another fragment where symbolically I'll look at that and I go, okay, that's a positive sign. Now, you got 2 Christmas trees with presents and gifts all over, but they were all wrapped, so I couldn't see what they were. The other thing is another fragment I have to look at, and I've had this happen before too. There's a very possible news story that could, a high-profile news story, by the way. These are never, it's never that the Dreamweaver gives me anything that's a minor story. It's usually something major or high-profile or bizarre or odd in some way. And so the Christmas trees could have been there as a symbolism for the possibility that trees, something about Christmas trees in the future. There may be a news story about people not using them anymore, or there may be a problem, a shortage, or something like that. Those are the kind of things that I have to think about. But I don't have the luxury of thinking about these things too long because I want to get that information on the blog, especially the Lotto stuff. And usually I try to get all that on before the noonday drawing because some of these numbers hit so fast. And you guys got the latest email of one that hit like an hour after I made the post of a former girlfriend. And that happened on March 28th. I mean, I had the dream of her. I saw the digits in her chart. I have a chart, individual birthday charts and Lotto chart, as I call it, on everybody I dream about. And I keep these as I do you guys. I know you have a birthday coming up this month, Solana, on the 18th, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, what I'm saying, I keep that information, and then I go back in there and I went and played those numbers. And I hadn't played in a while. I just said, well, I'm going to go play those numbers of hers. And less than an hour later, I had won 2 jackpots. I bought 2 tickets. I usually would buy a lot more, but I'm saying I'm experimenting again to see if I'm going to get back in the groove of playing. Now, what's even more interesting about that was the 18th dream of her, 18th jackpot in a row. 18 dreams, all produced 18 jackpots. Guys, this is so consistent. You can't make this stuff up because all this stuff is posted in advance on the blog for everybody to see.
Well, Patrick, let's hold it right there for a second, and when we come back, we'll talk more with Patrick, dreams, and all sorts of other goodies. So don't touch that dial. So there you go. There's a song. It's called The Hive, and you can get that wonderful song off of spaceboymusic.com. That's spaceboymusic.com, where you can find all of Spaceboy's wonderful music. In fact, the most recent album, which I believe The Hive is on, is called Unique Technique. Did you know you can get that album for just $10, Sirlana?
Yes, I did, but I get it for free.
Well, that's
it's
true,
the perks
because you're connected. So, yes, head on over to spaceboymusic.com once Spaceboy Universe show is over and get your $10 album with 17 wonderful tracks. So, back to our guest, Patrick Sporer. So, we were talking about dreams, and
we can get into, if he wants to, some specific dreams from his blog. I know I wanted to ask him about when he posted, I guess this week, about the... they're finally hearing in UK this strange sky trumpet noise. And that's a story I've been following for a while.
Well, I sent that to you guys. I thought you would found that interesting. I was actually, when I saw it, I didn't know anything about it. That was what was so surprising to me. You guys have heard about this, though.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely been out there for a while.
This is something that Linda Moulton Howe always, has that and the booms that come from underground, but
I think it's been a while.
Trumpets,
but it's been a while since our last trumpet.
Yeah, they're freaky. Although I did see, and I have, it's one of these things. I saw the video once on YouTube, and then I could never find it again. Some teenager or somebody said, "I've got the answer to what this noise is," and he walked through this little wooded area down to this concrete foundation that had just been poured, and the earth mover was scraping the dirt, the part that scoops up the dirt was scraping across the concrete, and it was just the loudest, high-pitched, almost horn-like sound. But I've seen so many of these videos, they don't all sound that way, so I don't know if you can explain it with that. Sure, some could be hoaxes, but the one that was in Canada, where the 2 or 3 guys were in the deep woods and in the snow and just standing around looking, that one sounded almost biblical. That was the creepiest one.
Makes you wonder what it's all about.
Yeah, it's the Archangel Gabriel blowing the horns there.
And I thought that same thing, Patrick, is that's what it kind of, that and bringing the walls of Jericho down, and so it kind of, from a biblical point of view, kind of put the hair on the back of my neck up, so.
Sure. Yeah, I have a private list that you guys are aware of other than the blog that I send these to. And a lot of these people have known me for years, but some of these people still, even with the evidence, and one of those is a friend of mine. He's a former Air Force officer. He was a jet pilot. And we connect. We've been friends for many, many years, but he has a real difficult time with all this stuff. He says all of it's bunk. He says there's no such thing as UFOs, no such thing as aliens. Now, this guy was a jet pilot. He was in the Air Force for, close to 30 years. And, my dad came from the Air Force, too. My dad was in NORAD, and he worked in Cheyenne Mountain. And my other uncle, who was a colonel in the Army, worked at the Pentagon. And they both have said the same stuff, Now, my dad is not the big skeptic. He keeps an open mind. My dad was always an open-minded guy. My uncle, on the other hand, said, there's some scary things I could tell you about, but he said, that's not one of them. So, but I myself, I keep myself open to all this stuff. But, of course, as you guys are well aware, there are people out there that there's just some people that want to be so well-known, so rich, so famous, that they will fabricate and they will make stuff up. And the problem is nobody ever challenges these people. Nobody ever says, well, when did this happen? When did that happen? Are you willing to take a polygraph? I've noticed no one ever does that. It's sort of like they just take everybody for their word on a lot of this stuff. But this particular gentleman, his name is Dan. I've been sending him, I just had a dream about him on the 31st, which was yesterday. And I sent it to him, and I know he just hogwash. And here's what happened. Today, the digits from that birthday that I sent to him from the dream came in today, 24 hours later. How can he deny that? How can he not see that? See, some people, I think, in this world, Sirlana, you know what I'm talking about, and I know Spaceboy, you know what I'm talking about. They just don't want to believe. It doesn't matter how much proof you give them. They have made their minds up that all this stuff is mumbo jumbo.
I might be one of those, considering what the subject is.
I was going to say that Serlana and I are like Fox Mulder and Dana Scully. She's like Dana, and I'm more Fox. And I want to believe, but at the same time, I think I do have at least a healthy dose of skepticism.
I try to keep an open mind, and if I can't, and if I just can't get on board with what you're about or what you believe, I at least go, oh, okay, and I'll step back and like, that's what you think, that's what you believe, bless your heart. Mm-hmm. You just go on with your life, and I'll go on with mine. And I think we both are at the angle where we, like she's saying, is that we don't openly go out and tear somebody apart because they have a different point of view. We want to, listen to what people have to say. And maybe we learn something, and maybe we don't, in the sense of, hey, it's not something that I've researched, or that's something I've researched and I've pretty much got an opinion. But it's not a friend killer, is I guess at the end is what I'm trying to say is that. But,
sure.
Yeah. So
I've learned to keep an open mind, but not so much that my own brains fall out. But I'll just I'll just back away from that politely,
And I admire you both for that, because it's important. You can't do what you do and go into it with a certifiable I don't believe in this. There's no reason to have a show if you're doing that. You should just be at the bunker. Mm-hmm. But it's also good to be able to be skeptical. And of course, you're not going to embarrass anybody on the air or anything, or call anybody out, which no journalist or anybody who's doing a show should, unless you look at some of these shows where they actually do that. But I'm like you guys in a lot of ways. I don't just it's real difficult to convince me of something when you don't have physical evidence to back it up in some way. And when I started doing this with the dreams, I didn't share this with too many people because I already knew. I was a bodybuilder, guys. I owned a gym. I was a Magic Mike. I was all these things that people wouldn't even begin to think that I was anything like this. Except for
a man with a man with some sweet looking hair.
Oh yeah, you had fabulous hair.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. It doesn't. I wish I could get that due back, but as you age and change, things start to change a little bit. I have somewhat that mode still, but so being in all these different things, though, you'd be surprised what at the right time when you sort of just feed things to people and you say, hey, have you ever thought about this? Yeah, about this. Suddenly they're telling you their story. But it's so funny that somebody that'll say, hey, I don't believe in any of this stuff, suddenly will tell you their story, and they want you to tune into what they're saying. And I'm sitting there going, okay, well, you're the guy that said this doesn't happen and that's impossible and this is this. Now you've had this experience and you want to share that with me. And so I do the same thing they do. Okay, when did it happen? What time did it happen? Where were you located? All these things. And they started getting a little antsy and a little upset at the fact that I'm doing that. And I said, well, this is the exact same way you do me. I said, you're telling me this, and you want me to do this. So it was so important when I started doing this blog that I had everything posted in advance. Because once you do that, and even my friend in L.A. who was a producer, who was very interested and connected me to other producers because they wanted to do this, as many people on your show have said, they want to do this reality show because they saw the results. They were getting these results and they were astounded. They were going, I don't believe in any of this. Now suddenly they're looking at this and they're going, well, wait a minute. This happened. He said this and that. The problem was that they didn't want to do it with the authenticity that I wanted to do it with. See, I wanted to do a lot of this stuff in real time. I wanted authenticity, dates, times, all this stuff, and they wanted to take things and sensationalize it, and I just couldn't do it. And they had a film crew coming here. They got very upset with me. And they had the film crew coming here, and I called them in the middle of it. I told my girlfriend, I don't want to do this. I said, this isn't going to work out the way I want it to. Now, what's interesting, I'm glad I did that because I passed up a good opportunity, but I've passed those up before. But the beauty of it was I had not discovered the dream lotto connection at that point. They had lined me up on talk shows. They're the ones that connected me to Fox News. the late Alan Combs,
right?
The gentleman
I was going to bring that up too, and I wanted to get your take on that.
Well, the interesting thing about that was, at the time, I was joking. After one of my bodybuilding shows, I have a dinner for all the judges and staff. And some of them know I do this, and others were skeptical and going, oh, no, he's going to talk about dreams and, predicting the future again. I said, hey, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be on Fox News, and I'm going to be interviewed by this guy right here. And they said, yeah, sure. Now, I was joking with them at the time when that occurred. Mm-hmm. And then, like 3 days later, I get an email from Fox News and from Alan Combs. Says, hey, so-and-so told me about you. I really want to talk to you about this stuff. I'm very interested. So I thought, really? Is this a joke? Did somebody sit at that table? Because, I thought somebody might send me a bogus email or joke with me. Turned out that was not the case. It was the real Alan Combs. And so he had me on 2 other times before the televised one or the Skype one. I was on his radio show. And there were things that I said on there that happened. See, I made the post that he and Hannity were going to split, and I shared that with a few people, and people had said, "Oh, they're never going to split up." Well, 6 months later, it was announced that they did, and I mentioned that to him, and he said, "Hey, no one knew about that." He said, "And how?" He said, "When did you send this out?" I said, "I sent that out 4 months before you announced the news." And he said, that's really incredible. And then I went on with some celebrities that I said were going to pass away, and they did, and stuff like that. So then he had me on that last show. And then I had the dream about him in December, and then 2 months later, I saw the news that he passed on. And I was like, wow, in the dream, it was so real when I was talking to him, and I thought to myself, well, maybe he's going to contact me again for being on another show, and it turned out to be that he died. And the thing is, I didn't know he was sick. No, they keep all that stuff pretty quiet about those people, mm-hmm. And I don't think it was announced anywhere. So suddenly, it was kind of like the David Bowie situation. That particular situation brought me and Spaceboy together because of the dream prior to that. So yeah, that was sad when I saw that. He was a very nice man, and he gave me a big break, on a national stage. I probably could have, I was really geared up. I was really excited about the chance of getting a reality show with some, well-known, these guys are, connected to very top people. Fox TV was the female producer that I had. She was connected to the guy that runs Fox named Dave Madden. You can look him up, and this is all legitimate. And I backed away from it. And I don't have any regret, because now when I made the discovery about the Lotto, I said, wow, now I have this dimension here. My problem now is at my stage of life, guys, I'm trying to figure out, and I'm like you, I like how my life is in my leisure time. I know that if I have to commit to a full-time show or anything else, I know what that takes. I know what you guys go through, because you have a lot of passion for what you do. I know what Solaris Blue Raven goes through. I know what it's like, because I was in that type of industry for a long time, live shows, live events, and everything like that. And I burnt myself up, and now I'm having a difficult time. Even some days when I want to make the post, doing this blog for 10 years, I've seen, nice results from it. I mean, I'm not making any money from it. That was never really the intention. It was more or less a way to put the dreams down before for myself. That's why I call it the dream cognition experiment. So that people can look at it and go, hey, wait a minute. I dream like this. Let's see if I can learn something or do something like that. Now, if it turns into something bigger, fine, but I'm not making a big pursuit of it at this time.
Yeah, I was just I was thinking about that. I was like, what if I had the time to type all this up? If I'm lucky enough to remember, sometimes I think I'm blessed that I don't remember what I dreamed. It's like, well, it's probably best I don't remember that, but they really stand out as like, well, this is a new level of weird. So I think I did that a while back, but it was strictly to amuse a friend, because my dreams got incredibly insane. It's like something you could only see in dreams.
You know, you bring your dreams up, and I like this one that you've had recently where you've been dreaming about zombies.
Yes.
And everybody that has listened to the show knows that you do not watch The Walking Dead.
Zombies are boring and predictable.
And I said that in a comment when we were driving back home from lunch is that, how is it that you could have all these dreams about zombies, and I'm the one that's watching the zombie movies, and I have never had a zombie dream. I mean, I always have the alien dreams, as well as...
And we saw Life, the movie Life, Monday night.
Which will be in a later on topic in our pop culture on the 15th.
And the only thing I have to say about that is you're not sleeping with a blue light on.
But, it's like, it just amazes me that...
my brain goes to some cool places without me.
Let me pick your brain real quick, Patrick, and hopefully Sirlana will indulge me. Is that a lot of Sirlana's dreams centers around living in one spot and always going back to that one spot in her dreams fairly often. Would you agree to that, Sirlana?
Yeah.
What do you think that might be, Patrick?
I've had people talk to me about, is it a recurring dream, Solana? Is that
oh, yeah, but I think the answer is because a huge chunk of my life happened in this one spot.
And I get worried in the sense that this is her purgatory.
Well, let me give you a suggestion. I won't be able to interpret it for you, but I'll give you a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to, when you have this dream again, I want you to get a notepad and try this. And I want you to write down where you're at, the location, and I want you to think what you can remember from this location that holds some significance to you, like numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just see, like numbers.
I remember
like
the
addresses,
address.
Numbers.
Yeah.
Like phone numbers, stuff like that.
I remember the phone number, everything.
Yeah, and you're going to start, what you'll start noticing, and let's just focus on this one dream. Don't worry about your other ones. Let's just do this one as an experiment. And just jot it down, and then I want you guys to see, maybe Sirlana's having the same situation I am with numbers in the Lotto, because you guys have the Texas Lotto there, and I'm sure you have a Pick 3 and a Pick 4 game. She might even be getting numbers on the bigger games, but you won't know until you you don't have to play. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, like I said, when I experimented, it was like putting my toe in the water. I sort of started examining, fill out the cards. Should I play today? Oh, no, I don't want to lose any money. Because by nature, even though I was an entrepreneur for many years, and that is a gambler of sorts, I don't like to do Vegas-style type gambling with money.
Right.
Because I know it can turn addictive, and I've seen what happens to people in my travels playing the Lotto. It is sad. It's a documentary right there. If you guys lived here, we would have a lot of fun coming up with making documentaries. Because of all these different ideas, and I saw what people were doing. I'm talking people were living in their cars. Believe it or not, this is true. And they would go and do odd jobs and everything. But back to what we're talking about. So see if any of the numbers just happen to coordinate over the next, that day or the next few days after that dream, and just see if any of your numbers are coordinating with the jackpots. Let's try that first.
I just wrote them all down right now, all the numbers I know, can remember.
Yeah.
And then we can pull, I've got the app, so we can kind of look at the app and see what the lot is.
We had this phone number probably for more than 30 years. And then I remember.
Yes, you want to look at the last four of the phone number. See, this is the other thing that freaked people out. They thought it was just birthdays. They go, oh no, this what you want to think of is like, if you think of a tree in the base, you have the nucleus of the base of the tree, and then all these things branch out. And you can't say, as I learned from dreams and this repetition phenomena, where I've learned a lot of things about that, still learning. I have nothing mastered. I keep learning new things all the time. It's fascinating. But you have to look at where the branches are going, because it's the old saying in space, but you'll know what I'm talking about. It's probabilities. You can't just say it's going to be this on this date at this time. It would be nice if it was like the movies, how they write that stuff in the movies and TV shows. Of course, a lot of the shows now are getting better about not doing that. They're getting better about this probabilities and timeline, and that's why you guys will like the Discovery movie. I think you'll really enjoy that, the Robert Redford movie on Netflix. You'll start seeing that these things branch off, and it's just like the post I made on Aurora, the repetition post I made on Aurora the other day. Already two things connected to Aurora made the news. I mean, within a day. One was about the first flight that went down to Antarctica, and they showed the aurora. Did you guys see that news in the video? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then, what are the odds that Caterpillar is laying off employees in Aurora, Illinois? That was all over the news. That was huge news. Now, see, I could have ignored that, and somebody on the other end is going, well, why did you pay attention to it in the first place? You know, what are you going to gain from it? Remember, in our world, everybody does things because they want to gain something from it. You know, they want to gain money or fame or something like this. You never know what those things will turn into if you start paying attention to these subtleties of life. It's like you as a musician, Space Boy, and my brother's a musician, and I know how you guys think. And I know that you see the music. You can see the music sometimes. You can feel the music, but you're always wondering why, you know, other people can't notice this, or why other people don't see this or share my sound or something like that. And that is you drawing on your intuitive part of yourself and bringing this music forward, giving it birth. And Sirlana can appreciate this with novelists, you know, how they can come up with these stories, incredible stories, you know, and they can fill them with such passion, and you can, and, you know, anybody who reads books, and my friend George is like you, Sirlana, he just tears books up and reads them. Yeah, and my older sister's the same way. She is a bookworm and just loves reading books. They hide all day and read books. That takes a special type of person to do that.
That's all I want to do in life is hide and read books.
Yeah. I can't. You should watch that Twilight Zone one with Burgess Meredith.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar.
I always refer to that. That is Sirlana to a T, but I could imagine her breaking her glasses and not being able to read.
Well, no, I take my glasses off to read, so that's not a problem.
Oh, okay. Well, then you won't end up like the Twilight Zone.
That was one of the better Twilight Zones.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. But so, you know, all of us, and this is I like to encourage people, and I warn everybody, don't exalt anybody like these self-help gurus and all these people that suddenly are on television. They don't have all the answers. Some of them, you know, are just fortunate that they're in the scenario that they're in. I'm not going to put anybody down because I think it's great that anybody has that kind of providence in their life. I've had it in my own life more than once. But at the same time, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about. When you put somebody on a pedestal, and you may know more than they do. They just have had an opportunity to be there, and they become this talking head and this voice like they know everything. And that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of unknowns out there that have a lot of talent, and they just need somebody to give them a break, such as you, Space Boy, with your music.
Yeah, it reminds me of a song that I've been tinkering with called "Your Idols Only Disappoint."
Yeah. You know, it's like I was watching the news, I think 2 days ago, and there was a story on about this woman who claims her 10-year-old son is the reincarnation of Lou Gehrig. I'm wondering if anybody in your chat saw that story. Did you guys see that story by chance?
I don't think we saw that one, but that's intriguing.
Well, but the problem with that, and the same thing I have the problem with, is when a 10-year-old child is saying these things, how do you know they're not being fed that, or they saw it on a movie now, or being influenced in some way, and they saw that this little girl or this little boy got a book deal in a movie? Well, guess what? The mother self-published a book about it, and now Disney's going to make a movie out of it. And, you know, again, Providence has come to them, but how can you prove that this child really is the reincarnation of Lou Gehrig? How can you? There's no way to actually prove that.
Right. That reminds me of another story similar to that about a young boy who claimed he was a reincarnated fighter pilot. And I can't remember how that story all ends with him, and I'll have to go back and research that one. But it just came to mind. Maybe one of the space cadets can figure that one out. Hey, you know, we're at the top. I don't mean to stop you, Patrick. Okay. What we're going to do is take the break, and when we come back, we're going to take some calls too, because Sirlana is going to get the call center action going. But we'll definitely talk about. We'll move from topic to topic. Sorry, an inside Star Trek joke. But yeah, you're listening to Space Boy Universe on the SBU network, and our guest tonight is Patrick-Sporer. So don't go anywhere. righty, we're back, and you are listening to Space Boy. You're listening to Solana. Say hello, Solana.
Hey.
And our guest tonight is Patrick-Sporer. So, Patrick, you were talking during the break, so did you want to talk about that and then lead into where we final destination? Before you say that, the phone lines are open. 844-734-7286. That's 844-734-SBUN. It's a free call. That's a toll-free number. No nickel will be charged to you. We'll pick it up so that you can talk to us. So you were going to say, Patrick.
Yeah, this is another example of how dreams will tell you about what's going on. This was in the early 90s. My girlfriend and I were going through a rough patch at the time. She didn't want me to go to California. She didn't want me to be in the movies. She didn't want me, she knew all this stuff. When I got with her, I told her these things I wanted to do, and I was going back and forth to L.A., shopping strips and everything else. So I had suspicion that maybe she was seeing someone else. So I didn't accuse her of it or anything else. I just was sensing something, as most people can sense things about who they've been with for a while. So I started, when I was drifting off to sleep at night, I started asking my subconscious, could you kind of point out to me, what's going on with her? And about 3 nights in a row, my Dreamweaver, or the subconscious, started showing me this guy I know in town. His name was Neil. And the weird thing is I thought, oh, my gosh, is she seeing this guy? And I knew his last name, too. And I thought, how strange is this? So one day I just decided to, I said, I'm just going to ask her about this because things aren't going to work out. I need to move on and let this go away. So I said, so how are you and Neil doing to her? She looked like a ghost. And she said, who? I said, Neil. I said, the guy you're seeing, his name is Neil, right? She goes, did somebody tell you that? I said, no. She said, how could you know that? Now, she's aware of this. This was the same girlfriend that was with me when I had the premonition that my father was going to die. And she was there when I said that, and my dad died about 8 hours later, right after that. And so she knew these things were going on, but she swore that maybe somebody had told me something. She said, no. She said, you're right, I have been, and I've got to know this guy, and his name's Neil. But it wasn't the same Neil in the dream. So you see how the subconscious used somebody, because I didn't know who that guy was. He wasn't in my memory banks. The person that she was seeing wasn't in my memory banks, but it dredged up somebody with the same exact name. And when I told her that, it was like she was just shocked. And this is just a once in a while thing. This has happened with other things too, dealing with different stuff. So that's another dimension of the dream world.
So I get the impression it's kind of like, we've probably talked about this before, and I immediately think of Solaris Blue Raven talking about the hive mind, if you will, where you may not have the, like your memory banks don't have the correct information, so it draws off.
It's the next best thing?
It's the next best thing to make a connection there.
That you have experience with.
That you, yes, experience.
Yeah, and the other thing is you have to continue with the flow. In other words, you might see something and just discount it because you're not making heads or tails of what it may be trying to tell you. It's like when I was on her show, I told her, the thing with the hive mind is, in order to do what any of us do, you can't be totally in the hive mind. You have to have sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If you go too far outside the hive mind, you're kind of just going to float away. So I think you have to have that connection to the superconscious mind, as some people refer to it, which is a step outside of the hive, and then you have to keep 1 foot in the hive to be connected to the information, and then therefore you have to be very good at interpreting your what your subconscious is trying to tell you. You know what it reminds me of? Everybody is into emojis, right?
Right.
Yes.
So when you see a single emoji, that emoji tells you a whole lot more than just the emoji itself, right?
Yeah, it stands for something, a symbol, a mood.
Correct. So, now you got people talking with just emojis and they're not even putting words in there anymore. So it's sort of like a subconscious communication for dreaming. It's the same sort of thing. You're getting a symbol and then you have to interpret what that symbol means to you. So I look at this, and now from the emojis, they got these other things now. What's the TV ad I've been watching where they're slapping these things on everybody's body when they're walking by. It's just some other form of communication they're coming up with now. Have you seen those ads?
No, I haven't seen that. That sounds
I rarely see ads because I've got ad blockers, and I pay for things
well,
to not see.
Well, these are it's some TV ad now where they're using the millennials and they're going around pasting these things on people when they walk by them and stuff like that. So, and they're using that as another form of communication instead of talking. I mean, there may be a point where we keep evolving to the point where kids are going to be born without vocal cords. I got a feeling that's coming next, because people really don't like communicating. People really don't like verbalizing on the phone anymore. Because I understand why. I understand. Sometimes you can get a long, drawn-out conversation much longer than you need it to be, and then you lose time doing all these other things that everybody needs to get done.
Question, Patrick, do you mean collective consciousness in the Jungian sense, like Carl Jung, or? Yeah,
I actually have a book in there. I've read parts of him, but yeah, I'm saying in a nutshell, without saying, I'm trying to keep everything in layman terms, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what I would be saying. Yeah, the giant consciousness is the hive mind, sort of. Solana, there's these books that they've been out there for years where they call them dream dictionaries or dream encyclopedias. And when I've used to play the Lotto on a regular basis, you'd be amazed what people will say. Well, I had this dream last night, and I pulled out my dream encyclopedia, and it told me I was going to win big money. And I'm looking at them, I'm going, really? Now, I don't say anything to them, I'm just listening, because they live and breathe these things, and they actually think these symbols are universal. And that's a big mistake when doing dream interpretation, is to think one thing means this to everybody. You have your subconscious dialogue, and I know that your little subconscious recorder probably has oodles from all the stuff that you've read that's put in there. And Spaceboy has his from his music experience, movie experience, very similar to what I do. This whole thing about people saying don't watch TV, don't watch movies, it'll do it. This is all part of your subconscious. This is all stuff that's being absorbed, and I've seen it benefit me. As opposed to my friend George. He doesn't like to watch a lot of TV. He would prefer a book over a television show anything.
It's got to be coming from somewhere. If I'm not reading about zombies or, watching or talking about it, or, if it's not in my world at the time, where's my subconscious getting this? Is it a manifestation as a metaphor for something else? So it's got to come from somewhere.
Well, I imagine you and Spaceboy sort of share, as you were talking about, that collective unconscious together, being a couple. And it was just like when I said, I joked about the praying mantis alien or something. I said you would see it, and Spaceboy sort of ended up seeing it.
I never did see it.
Yeah, so you never did, but he had some sort of interesting experience with that.
Well, let me take a step back here for a second, Patrick. You were talking about emojis earlier. And so would it be far-fetched to say, okay, we're having a conversation about emojis, and then looking out there to see what else is connected to emojis? I know that there's going to be an emojis movie, of all things, and that release date is 7/28/17. So would that be something that you would connect the dots into, kind of just look into how that would go down, or see some kind of connection?
I didn't even know there was going to be a movie about that.
Yeah, there shouldn't be, but there is.
yeah. But it's kind of, they're kind of churning out anything out of Hollywood these days.
Patrick Stewart's going to play the voice of the poop emoji.
Oh. You know what? I think I did see him saying something about that. Yeah.
James Cruz.
But anyway, I guess in a way this shows you again the influence that emojis are having in our society. I think that people are going to, I think it won't be long, it won't be emojis, it'll be direct telepathic communication, which sort of is anyway. I think we're just going to keep evolving to the point, everybody talks about the alien grays, that they don't make any, they don't verbalize anything. Maybe somewhere in the future, I've always had this, my own theory about this, I have different theories, but I've always felt that they might be time travelers or of some sorts coming from a future, coming back here to say, hey, you screwed everything up. We can't talk or nothing anymore because you all went into not wanting to communicate anymore with all your phones. And it's just like these devices now that you can talk to at home, right? What are they called? The Google
Alexa and Google.
Yeah. I mean, pretty soon those are becoming companions for a lot of people.
Yeah, they ask them questions like, "Would you ever lie to me? Are you working for the FBI?"
Yeah. So I think there's the further away that people get away from talking to one another, there's gonna be some sort of evolution.
That's what we're going to try to do a show on, Patrick, on transhumanism.
In fact, I'm hearing that within 5 years, there's going to be an ability to hook up some kind of Wi-Fi to your brain to be able to access the internet that way.
No. Can I at least have my mind to myself if I can't get 5 minutes alone?
I think one of the big problems in the world today is everybody, we've always been in a dangerous world, but it's even more dangerous now because there's no privacy. Anybody that wants to do dastardly deeds, from serial killers to pedophiles to terrorists, can access you if they want to. They can. I mean, it's just a very dangerous world. And I don't know. I think the only way that a lot of people want to do is just like when they rescinded the order for these companies. Now they can take your information when you browse, and they can take your information and use it in all sorts of ways. I think that's been going on anyway. But I mean, it's going to be where you either need to disconnect entirely to maybe have a degree of privacy or safety, or you're going to have to be so reliant on it. And I think that's what the problem is going to be. People are, the kids today growing up, they're going to be so used to this instantaneous way of getting an answer. You don't have to look at a book anymore. You just do this or that or whatever. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, as we move towards the future, I mean, the doubling effect seems to get faster and faster and faster. I was reading an article the other day about how, it's at a point where, let's say you get a doctorate's degree, it's like it's not enough because there's so much wealth of knowledge out there to take in that you're like being a specialist that's
constant,
sub-specialist, just kind of drilling it down to one little thing. So I think that in the future we'll probably do a show on transhumanism and discuss that, and I think that it's a relevant topic that we probably definitely need to cover.
Yep.
Sounds like we're going to talk about Kubrick again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, I was thinking, how we use symbols and how I didn't know information. I'll give you another example. And this was a pretty significant lotto win. I'll give you an example of what happened. There was a guy that trained in my gym, and he used to tell me this story about when he met, you remember the Barbarian Brothers? You probably remember
them.
Yeah,
I remember them.
Yeah. I met those guys, and they were massively huge. They were on a... remember DC Cab? Do you remember the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, they were both in. Well, this guy that worked out in my gym, he met them, and they told him he had weak calves, and he asked them how they got their calves, and he said, well, you got to do this. You got to do 35-35. And he goes, well, what's that? He says, you got to do 35 sets of 35 reps. Oh, my God, they're going to cripple him. And I remember him telling me this story. So his name's Dale. He's a real nice guy. So I had a dream about him in May 2013, and I didn't have his birthday information. I knew the guy, and for some reason I couldn't retain his birthday. I have a way of finding that out, but I said, what do I remember about him? I remembered the 35-35. Guys, less than an hour later, I went down and played those digits several times and won major jackpot. Those numbers, those digits came in just like that from that dream. Yeah, so this is routine. This is, I got dozens of other stories like this, but that one I wanted to bring up because of the fact that that was the only information that I had about him number-wise that I said. And so I experimented. I said, well, I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to go play those. I'm going to play them right now because of the dream was so strong that he was in. And I saw him later on, a couple of weeks after that. I said, hey, man, I won a bunch of money on you, that 35-30. He says, you remember that story? I said, yeah, I remember. I said, you met the barbarian? He said, yeah, you remember all that? I said, yeah, I remembered all that. And I said, because I remembered you said 35-35, I said, I won about 10 grand. And he says, well, where's my cut?
Yeah, and that's, that kind of, defined when I saw that billboard Friday, Patrick, and like, okay, first off, I know you probably know the meaning behind the Willy Wonka thing with the show, me getting a little dyslexic with names. And so when I saw that, I said, that must be me, something telling me, because, first off, I have you coming on tonight, right? And this is my thinking. I have you coming on. We've talked many times about lottery. And then I see that on the billboard, and I think, this is Kismic. I need to take it. What did I...
I love how you make up your own
anyway, meaning that I have to play or get these Lotto scratch-off ticket things. And sure enough, it worked out, And so I kind of looked at it like it wasn't actually playing numbers, but this time, it was a matter of I saw a sign, literally, and I played and won a little cash.
Yeah, well... I'm telling you, I see this consistently, and that was, like I said, that was in May. I actually posted that before I went and played. I said I don't remember his birthday, and I put down, but that's what I do remember from that. So that was on there before I played the numbers. I think it's difficult for people to really still, when they see this and they read it, I think sometimes it's still difficult for them to really know that somebody can win money from their dreams. I do it consistently. I've done it consistently. I have no reason to make it up. I mean, let's face it. If I hadn't posted in advance and I started making up stories, I could see somebody saying, well, where did you put it before? It's like a lot of these people who make these predictions. They go on these TV shows and they say, well, I said this on this date. That there's nowhere that you can find that stuff. And after the fact, it's like the people who follow Nostradamus. It's very easy for them to say after the fact, oh, this is what Nostradamus meant. But we really don't know what he meant. Yeah. And that's why it's so important that I get this information down on that blog with the time and date so that nobody can sit there and say, well, he can't be making it up because he said this here, and this is what was going to happen, and these are the things that occurred. And, that's why it's so important for me. Just like anybody who wants to prove anything out there, I don't really have to prove much to myself anymore. I know it's that way. And for me, like I said, it's a form of therapy at the same time. But it's like yourself with your music. You love your music. You're going to always do your music regardless. But at the same time, you always wish that you could share it with more people, or find out, hey, am I okay with this? Really, it's not really something we really need to validate ourselves with. But there's that part of our human emotion that wants us to say, well, am I on the right track with this? Am I doing this correctly? Do I feel good about this? How do other people feel about it? And sometimes you just don't get that feedback.
What do you do if you have this dream and you get like a string of numbers and you can remember them or most of them? I mean, does that still have any significance? I mean, how would you even break those down if you wanted to play them, or you just write them down and deal with them?
Well, what happens with me, and I call that the repetition phenomenon, I'll see a 3-digit number repeating.
Okay.
Or I'll see a 4-digit number repeating. It's rare that I'll get like separate numbers. Now, when I tried to play what they call the Fantasy 5 here, I just wasn't connecting the dots. I think that the subconscious is giving me more than the pick 3 or the pick 4 or the cash. It used to be called cash 3 and play 4 here, and then they changed the name about 6 months ago. I knew I was connecting with those, but I think it's probably showing me the bigger games. I just haven't figured that out yet. I think the subconscious is showing all of us, awake or asleep, 24/7, all sorts of things about our future, but we sort of discount it. We sort of, just like Spaceboy went with his gut and he won that money. Now that immediately that immediately gives him confidence. And not only that, it gives his subconscious confidence to show him more, because it's saying, hey, you're acknowledging this. And being the musician that he is, that in itself is a communication to his subconscious, giving him more and more information. You have to definitely be open to these things, and not just set them aside and say, oh, well, there's no meaning to that, because it's just like any opportunity in life. And it's like I was telling a couple of my friends, I said, this is just like a merry-go-round. It's not just going to come around once to you. It's going to keep showing until you acknowledge it. It's like, when are you going to grab that brass ring? And a lot of times people just don't recognize it. Now, this goes back to the old thing, is it meant to be? Now, Solana, you know as well as I do that in order to pick up on these lotto numbers, they have to be fixed in the future, right? Wouldn't you say they have to be sort of fixed in the future in order to pick up on it? Well, I mean, if you think about the story I just told you about the 3535, think about the coincidence. I mean, in a way, you could say it's a coincidence, but really when it's consistent, it's not a coincidence, but I even use the term coincidence. So I have this dream prior to these numbers hitting. Did I make the numbers come in, or were the numbers already going to hit? And this is what I tried to tell my friend. I said, look, whether I play or not, and because the thing I always get with this is, wow, you got those numbers in a dream? Well, I already know the dig is coming. Well, did you play them? Did you make any money on them? It's not enough that I picked up on the number, or that it translated from a dream. It's now the person wants me to qualify it by saying, well, if you didn't play it, then it doesn't count. I said, how does that not count? I said, if I told you were going to get hit in the head with a rock, and you didn't do anything about it, and you got hit in the head with a rock, what would you say about that? Well, that's not the same thing. I said, it's the exact same thing. I said, these things, we're picking up on future events all the time. All of us are. Just some do it better than others. And the thing is, that means these things have to be sort of fixed in the future. We can't be manifesting these things. And another thing, Space Boy, don't you think that it's sort of interesting that my dreams are so connected to the Florida Lotto where I live? Does that mean this artificial intelligence, this computer, this, because all these state lottos are run with these massive computers. You're aware of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So is this computer communicating to me in the subconscious, but doing it with images instead of just direct communication, verbalization or whatever? So this is all, it never ceases to amaze me, and that's why I try to bring this up to people. These numbers are fixed in the future. If they weren't fixed in the future, there's no way that I could be shown those. So that may talk about a little predestination here about our lives in some way. Solana, you and I have had this discussion before, and you sort of agree with me that we can't manifest whatever we want in the world. That it would be next to impossible for the universe to fulfill, everybody wanting to be president of the United States, for instance, or everybody wanting to, do this particular specific job or something like that. It would be an impossibility for a universe to supply that.
Well, even for me, it's more basic than that, and I already know I'm going to hell, but people say to me like, just think positive, and things will happen. I'm like, no, it won't. I got proof. So it's that type of thing that doesn't work either. So.
And that's why she wants to punch.
Although I do believe it's sort of in karmic consequences. Now, if I don't think positive, I ain't hurting anybody. But if I go out there and I'm malicious and I start talking trash about somebody, and I just, I don't necessarily do anything tangible, but, if I put that, I think if I put negativity out there deliberately, that will come back around. I do believe in that, but I also don't. I guess I only believe in the bad stuff. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I think maybe it's better to be sort of indifferent to either one. Look, there is no positive or negative. There just is. And I read the news avidly. Obviously, for what I do, I have to check news stories to see if I've had results. And I see stuff that happens to children on there that are just horrendous every single day. And I'm thinking to myself, what positive thinking or what dreams did they have that brought them this ill fate? And I know you guys are well aware of this. We see this with a lot of people, that they seem to die before their time, or just after their success, suddenly they pass away. You got to ask yourself the question, if they're thinking so positive, And look at the guy, James Arthur Ray, who was the big self-help guru on that, what was the book, The Secret? He ended up going to prison. Here's a guy who preached, self-help, positive thinking, you do this, you can manifest whatever you want, and he ends up getting in trouble and going to prison. They just did a really interesting documentary on CNN about him, and he was befuddled by it. He said, I can't believe this. He said, I can't believe it. I'm a guy who talked about all this stuff, and I'm now serving a prison sentence. And he's trying to convince himself that while he was serving it, that it had to be part of some lesson that he needed to learn, or it wouldn't have happened. So those are the kind of things I'm looking at. And yeah, remember, guys, I was an athlete. I've always come from a positive environment, everything I did business-wise. And it's like I was telling Solaris, from mid-'70s through most of the 80s, I was on a trajectory of success. It's like I just had success, this, that. Everything just kind of fell into my lap. It didn't really seem like I had to make a big effort. You have to also understand, I never had any plans to open a gym. When I was a kid, I never thought I was going to be a bodybuilder, in my life. I surely didn't think I'd be a Magic Mike. I always wanted to either play professional baseball or get into the movie industry and the movies and stuff like that. And I did make strides on both those levels, but it did not manifest. It seems like I was being guided to do all these other things, just like what we're doing right now. I feel that from the time I was a child with these dreams and all these little metaphysical encounters I've had in my life have guided me to do what I'm doing now. Now, I'm not famous from it, but let's just say that I made a phone call. I still have some good contacts, and I say, guys, look, I have this really good information now. I know I can do this. I prove I can do it. And if they'll really look at it, I know they're going to look at it and go, this definitely can be a show, but it has to be done in this way. I've already seeked out a videographer here. I've seeked out a polygraph expert. I've been piecing together something that may take me 2 or 3 years to do, but I have a long-range plan to do a really well-done documentary. It may cost me a few bucks, but that's okay. It's no big deal. And just shop it myself because so many people appear to be doing that. And I can do it my way with the correct stuff. And I'm looking at that. I'm thinking about doing that because being visual is the way to go. I mean, everybody has these devices where they're watching everything on their phone now or listening to everything on their phone. So, these are just some ideas I think I want to do. And then I start thinking, well, do I really want to do that? We'll see what happens. I throw those things out there. I made a contact. Are you familiar with the show Duck Dynasty?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of like...
Well, the producer and his wife, I know them personally.
Well, I think Serlana's probably related to half of them.
Well, no. My best friend, we're both from Northwest Louisiana. Her younger brothers know some of those guys on that show.
Yeah. Well, the producer of it, I met 20-something years ago because my friend was his personal manager. And I bonded with him. And I had no idea when I lost contact with him that he went on to become one of the major producers of reality television. They're in a big lawsuit right now. But he's forming a new company, and I thought about reaching out to him because I always got along with him. He was always interested in this stuff I talked about all the time. He was never closed-minded. His dad was a big CEO for Cheeseboro Ponds, and he used to send these big boxes of their products to the gym, and I would give them out to the guys all the time. So I know a lot of people, and I haven't revealed a lot of the people that I do know. But I just don't want to waste a coin. I don't want to waste anything by saying, hey, maybe this is. I want to have something pretty solid before I approach these people, if I think I want to do that, if I want to commit to that, because I know what it takes. Guys, I know what it takes to do your show. I know what it takes. Even if you're doing it one night a week, it still is in your mind. You want to do a good job with it. You want it to be good. And professional. You guys do a good job with yours.
Well, thank you.
Maybe not every Saturday.
let's take our last break real quick, and when we come back, we'll do some more. I think we might have a caller coming through. So you're listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU Network. We'll be right back. You're listening to Space Boy Universe, and we're heading into the final half hour of our show, and we sure do appreciate all the space cadets that showed up and have stayed all the way up until this point. Because from A to Z, it's important, or as they say in Canada, Z, it's important to listen to this show, because you never know what you're going to get. So, Patrick, you were talking about during a break, which we have this big rule about talking about during a break because we should save it for the show. Go ahead and continue with that story, or back it up and so the audience can hear.
Tell me what I was talking about.
Paying attention to vivid dreams, even if there's no numbers mentioned, maybe there's somebody in the dream, you could look up their birthday, but I dream about randomly made up strangers, so I don't know how to go from there other than to just document.
Well, I was giving you an example that if you don't know the information, there has to be some reason that your subconscious is showing you that individual. And I was telling you guys about that I had a dream of two classmates from high school, from my senior year. And I immediately went to my yearbook because I recognized both of them. They were shown in younger years as they appeared then. That's why I recognized them, because if I saw them today, I might not realize who they are. So the subconscious conjured up those images, and one of them was a guy I ran track with, and I couldn't find his birthday information. And from back then, I didn't really remember what it was, or if he even told me. But the 4 digits from the year I graduated hit 2 days later. Now, that I research all these numbers all the time. I don't just go, oh, this number's going to come in, I go play. There's work that's done. But in some cases, I do have a dream, and I can run right down, and an hour later I win money. In other cases, I have to do a little more work because all these numbers are connected in a very, very interesting way. And so I dreamed about another person, and I didn't know this classmate real well. She was a female, but I remembered who she was. And sure enough, I didn't have her birthday information. I have, it's been many, many years since I've seen either of these people. And 2 days later, those same 4 digits from the year of the graduation come in again. So I'm telling you guys, there's so many facets to all this stuff. The other thing I've discovered on the Florida Lotto, now this is all pertaining to the Florida Lotto, I guess because I live in Florida. I want to experiment if I go on a trip or somewhere, or if I go to another location, to see if I dream there and it has something to do with the Lotto in that state. That would be an interesting experiment.
You should go to Texas.
Yeah. Well, Texas, the problem with Florida right now and the problem with Texas is that they have 2 draw times. I think you have 3 draw times in Texas. But in Arizona, they only have 1 draw time. And I remember when they had 1 draw time in Florida, and I was making a killing because it was so much easier because I only had to go 1 time and fill out a few cards. When it became 2 times, now I have the information, but the problem was, do I play it on midday or do I play it on evening? So I had to kind of do a strategy on that, and that can be a difficulty, but I've managed to work on it. The other aspect of this that I discovered with the Florida Lotto is that numbers that hit in the same month a year ago, in some strange way, will start hitting again in a different combination the same month of the new year. And I stumbled upon that. So now I have another dimension, because now when I have a dream, I can look and I go, oh, that thing, I call those echo jackpots. And I go, this thing may echo back in again. So it's helped me learn to narrow it down by that discovery. A lot of people I pointed this out to said, God, I've been playing the Lotto for years and I never noticed that. I said, you check it out and see. And sure enough, they said, that is incredible. I said, that's going to make things easier for me. And then there's another dimension I found. And what I was hoping to do, you might remember this, Space Boy, I talked to you about wanting to develop an app with all this information to give Lotto players an advantage when playing. And then I'm still trying to, I reached out to somebody that does that stuff. The problem, of course, with an app is that when it's for winning money or gambling, people may not download, or what is it, it's called, upload or download the app. What is it when you do it?
Download.
One of those 2 things whenever you need it. If they have to pay for the app, I guess, do apps work? Do they have to pay for those? Like so much money or something like that?
I mean, you can offer them for free.
But when you offer it for free, how do you make money on those?
I don't know. I've never looked into that.
Well, the problem I was having with it is that somebody might just share, and they might not. One person might say, "Hey, I'm going to share this with 25 other people," and then that would sort of defeat the purpose of having what you were putting the app together for. So I don't know that I could if that would work at all. But that's another thing I always think. I'm always trying to think of things I can do without having to leave the house.
Oh, awesome. I like that way of thinking.
Sure. Well, that's kind of what you guys do with your show, right?
Well, we have to leave the house every day, though, to go make money.
Well, I know that. I mean, I used to have to do that as well. But I know what it's like when you're trying to juggle all these different things.
Yeah, well, one day things will work out, and we can be focused on one thing, and all you can do is just keep plugging forward and hoping for the best. See, that's the optimism coming out in me.
Well, we are possibly going to Comic Palooza again, so there might be another. It was good things came out of it last year, so maybe we'll get lucky. Hey, we do have a caller.
All right. Well, caller, you're on the air. Who's this?
Just wait. Okay, now.
Caller, you're on the air. Who's this?
James Cruz. What's up?
Hello, Mr. Cruz. How are you?
Mr. Tardy Cruz.
Yeah, I know.
What's going on, James?
Nothing. Just hanging out here with a pulled upper left wisdom tooth.
Oh.
That's not too good.
Okay, so you get a pass.
Yeah, it's all right, man. Yeah.
Do you have something for the guest?
Yeah, astro travel. I mean, have you ever delved into that aspect of it? Like, I can control myself personally. I can control my dreams. Something's chasing me. You can control it, turn around, chase it back. Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like, are you able to astro travel or leave the body?
Well,
anything like that.
I think that's probably what I'm doing. I mean, sometimes, the other night I had another levitation dream where I was controlling my levitation in the dream in front of a crowd of people. It was exhilarating. I have these type of dreams, flying dreams, levitation dreams. I have dreams where it's like I'm inserted in some other person. James, you probably have experienced that, where you feel like, have you ever in a dream gone to a mirror and looked at yourself and seen a different person, but you knew your consciousness was there?
I have.
Of course, it's like someone else's head or something on your body.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. So I've had those interesting type of dreams all the time. And of course, I sometimes I feel like it's a form of time travel as well, where I'm going backward and forward in time. Like I said, I see people that have passed on, and they'll appear to me like they're alive. I mean, and happy, and living this good life. I've seen that with people that I know, a lot of people that I know that have died, and including celebrities. They're fine there.
Yeah, I think it's like a consciousness thing. It's like, that realm spans between everybody somehow, some way. If that's the only way that anybody can connect, it would be that way. I would assume.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're all shared in the hive mind or the grand consciousness or the matrix or sometimes you have to wonder when I'm in a dream state. I sometimes enjoy it so much that I have to actually make myself some part of my reality, which I don't know if this is our reality or not. I've always questioned that myself. Is this the real thing or is that? The Aborigines say the dream world is the real world. This is the fake world. This is the illusionary world, the one that we call a reality. But I've had many instances where I swear if I died right now, I would be happy merging in, transcending right into this new life because it's so wonderful and great.
I could see that. Yeah, like I'd be almost on the same wavelength. I mean, I got a wife and kids and everything, but if I die tomorrow, I'll be happy. It doesn't matter, like, it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it takes a certain mindset to see things a little different.
Well, that's the beauty of these type of shows. A lot of like-minded people listen to these type of shows. Nobody has cornered the market on any of this stuff. I mean, I have my way of experimenting with it, and I've seen a lot of results with it. And I always enjoy listening to people like yourself who have these similar experiences, and sometimes even different than I do. And I respect and admire that people that are willing to share that stuff, because there's other people that you share these things with, and they just roll their eyes and they're going to look at you crazy. And like I said, it hasn't changed. I mean, from the time I was a kid, if I shared this stuff to the age I am now, I still encounter this thing to this day, even with physical evidence, even with stuff that I show somebody. I go, hey, how can you deny this? This is put here, and this is this, and this is this. And that's why I'm not quick to just, discount anybody's experience. But at the same time, it was like a guy who, he brought a videotape to my gym. He had joined the gym, and he heard me talking about UFOs and aliens, and we were standing around talking about that stuff. And I told him I'd just been over to Gulf Breeze and went to a seminar on the guy that had that, supposedly incredible experience over there that some people said was not true, and he hoaxed all the other. So he hears this, and then he brings in his videotape, and he says, hey, I had a UFO experience last night. And I went, really? He said, yeah. And he said, I want you to watch this tape and tell me what you think. Well, I watched the tape, and there was nothing on the tape but a full moon. And I thought to myself, and I was getting ready to show this to a bunch of people, and I said, oh, no, there's nothing here. And I asked him, I said, hey, are you sure that you've got something on tape there? He says, yeah, it's there. Can't you see that? And he was convinced that the moon, for some reason, the full moon, was a UFO.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he was really convinced. I didn't make fun of him or nothing. I mean, he was convinced that he was standing out in the field, and he saw that coming over, and he said, that's it right there. And I said, that's not. I said, are you sure? And my girlfriend was looking at it too, and she looked at me and she said, let the guy believe what he needs to believe. It's not for me to sit there and call him a fool or make him look bad or anything like that. And I've had other people do similar things that they, a guy told me that he saw a chupacabra, and he said he took a picture of it. And when he brought the picture in, it was an eagle. I could clearly see it was an eagle, and everybody else that looked at it said it was an eagle, but he was convinced in his mind that it was a chupacabra. So it's sometimes the perception of the individual on what somebody sees.
Well, James?
Yeah, like for myself right now, like I've never been an experiencer of anything except just random life. And I hear everyone's stories. I love soaking them in. I take everything in, and if something makes sense to me, I really dig into it, like you're talking about. Seek it out, search it out, and
sure.
And so the thing I'm doing now is I'm trying I'm going to try the astral travel realm, where you're laying down, you try to reach out for something, in your mind. But it kind of plays tricks with you. Is it like, am I dreaming? Am I sleeping? But like I said, I can control what happens in my dream. So that bridge right there, it's iffy, But I know there's a consciousness level to it, to some extent. I've done hypnotherapy once, years back, like in 2003. I did like a state of quit smoking thing, and I volunteered, and I went up and in front of like 200 people, man, and like me and this other lady, I volunteered, and he did a test on me and this and that, and it blew my mind away. So I just followed along with him. He's like, you want to go on this journey? I'm like, sure. So I closed my eyes, I listened to him, and he's like, where you guys want to go? Hawaii. Okay. I could feel it, man. I could feel the warmth. I could smell the salt in the air. You know, it was wild. Like, but I knew I was still sitting in front of a room full of people. So consciousness, I think, can travel throughout the universe. I don't know. I mean, that's no. I'm at that point right now where it's like anything I can test myself physically, I'll try it, I guess.
Well, why not? You know, as long as you're not harming anybody or you're not physically harming your health anyway. Do you keep a journal?
Right. No, I've heard about stuff like that too. Yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I would recommend it. I'm telling you, even if you write one line down from a dream, it's like I told another friend of mine. He said, "I never dream." I said, "No, you dream, but you don't always remember your dreams," because that's what I mean. And then when he does have a dream, he gets very excited about it. He'll email me and say, "Hey, here's a dream I had last night." So everybody dreams. They may not be extreme dreamers, but you sound like you're an extreme dreamer, like Sir Lana and I. So I would definitely.
Oh yeah, man, I'm crazy, dude. I'm like fist fighting. One morning, I dreamt I was like high-fiving, and my wife walks in the room as I'm sleeping. But in that millisecond, I high-five her, like as she's walking in. No joke. I'm like, what? I wake up laughing. I mean, I know I'm doing it at that split second in time. I'm like, slap. Like I have no clue. I mean, that was just ridiculous. But yeah, I do crazy stuff when I sleep for sure. I'm a mover. I'm a talker. Anything. But like, yeah, I'm very active in the dream state.
I would definitely start writing them down. Start a journal.
Yeah, it would be a pretty wild ride for sure, I would imagine.
Might be a bestseller, James. You never know.
Never know.
Dude,
stick it to a plot.
we can do that, and we can throw some music in the background, and we'll have we'll go from there. But yeah,
you never know what's going to work today. I tell you.
Well, hey man, yeah, I encourage anyone to try. You know, just as you're falling asleep, right at that brink, you know, try something a little different. If you can find that spot, that's where I found it once, where where I kind of flew out, and it was like 700 things at one time, and I kind of got like scared by it. It was weird, and then I kind of drifted off after that. But yeah, for sure, like there's a point where I don't know, maybe it's just my brain, you know, maybe those things are firing off at that point in time, but like I don't know, it's hard to explain. I guess you have to try. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's all in the DNA. I think we just inherited the abilities to do it.
Well, James, we appreciate you calling the universe.
No, I was going to say, yeah, screen memory. Like, it's in your DNA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now I'm going to say thank you for calling the universe, James. I appreciate you sticking out with us and calling in. So
you feel better with your
tooth.
Oh,
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Been there, done
Yeah,
that.
thanks.
Oh, yeah.
The tooth's fine. Like 3 weeks ago, I got the other two on the other side pulled out.
Ooh.
That was the worst. Oh
my goodness. All right,
hey, James.
James.
I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks for the talk. It was fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
I had to laugh because he talks about he's active. I had this last year on my birthday. There was a biblical flood in Houston. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was in the news. I couldn't go to work for 2 days. That was like water levels like they hadn't seen since Alicia, tropical storm Alicia or something. And I knew I didn't have to go to work, so I went back to sleep. You'd gotten up, and in my dream, I was fighting a female ghost, an older zombie guy, and I was fighting them, and they cornered me in an old house, and I was up on a bed, and I karate kicked them, and I rolled off the bed, physically really rolled off our bed onto the floor, wrapped up like a burrito in the sheets, had to get my phone, text him in the next room, come in here and help me get off the floor. And we laughed so hard.
I was like, what are you having a cat party over there? Or what?
I laughed so hard. He couldn't get me up because we were just crying.
I'm picturing this. I'm visualizing all the shit you're saying.
Yeah, I was like, up at more towards the top of the bed, and we had to try to shimmy me down to the end of the bed so we could get some leverage. So,
did you have Mexican food?
I have not fallen out of the bed since I was really little, I think. I mean, that's like, and on my birthday, that was crazy. I don't know who knows what happens this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how vivid. See, you definitely are an extreme dreamer. There's no doubt about that. I mean, my Lord. And then the recall. Your recall is very, very good.
Well, yeah, it was. I was fighting. I was like with my fist. I mean, we were going after it, and I was like kickboxing and just kicked myself right out of the bed.
I felt like Jackie Gleason when he shakes his head. There's just, that typical Smokey and the Bandit kind of attitude he takes. And, like, I can't believe you just got kicked out of the bed by the cat or, and you're wrapped up. And, I mean, it was pretty dang hilarious.
Well, the cat was in there, and then I fell out of the bed, and anything that's anomalous, she's like, that's it, I'm gone. I'm taking off. I can't,
Yeah, this, again, if I put, it's just like when I have these dreams and I put them down on the blog even, I go to myself, oh gosh, I know there's going to be some eye rolling on this. But when I break down the fragments and I tell, I don't just put the dream down like you just told me. I actually go in there and try to interpret the fragments and give a summary of what I think it means. Then people go, oh, okay, because if you, I mean, Solana, if you put a dream just like that down there and there's nothing, like, what does this mean? That's the kind of stuff that people will go, oh gosh, because there's a lot of people that have dreams like that, like you're talking about, but they don't make any sense. They just seem like they can't make heads or tails out of this.
Well, it makes for a good story.
Oh, it's a great story, but I would start writing those down because this is a universal thing. This dreaming, everybody is dreaming, and people all want to really try to figure out what they're being said by the subconscious. But some of them are very funny, and some can be scary too.
Indeed. Well, Patrick, we've hit pretty much the top of the hour. Do you want to remind all of the Space Cadets where they can find you and all that good information and contact you?
Sure. I first want to thank you guys for having me on again. Thank you so much. And I want to thank all the Space Cadets that attended tonight's festivities. And I hope that they all will start checking out my very interesting Precognition, the Dream Cognition Experiment blog. Mm-hmm. And you guys have me linked up there so they can find that through you guys, correct?
Yes. That is correct.
Yeah, and just start looking at it and see if it'll help you out in any way. Other than that, I look forward to being on your show again in the future.
Well, Patrick, we can definitely predict, and we don't need lottery results, that you will be back because we love you here at the Universe, and it's always a treat talking to you. And, just expect to get that call. And, of course, keep sending us the emails because we love them. That we like reading all that, and it's always good.
Right, and one last thing on that tape: if you guys discover anything else out, let's keep that for the next show and kind of let me know what you hear.
And we get you
curious.
The digital copy he made for you, your archive.
Yeah, it'll go both ways. We'll keep you informed, and then plus, like I said, I want to go over that again, and because I started thinking about doing a show on reverse speech. And then that's when I kind of clued into like, well, let me put this in reverse and see if I hear anything. And sure enough, I was able to pick a few things out, and just hair on the back of my neck kind of standing up. And so so all good in the neighborhood, Patrick.
All right, you guys, thank you so much, and you have a great April.
Oh, you too.
Oh, you too.
All right, hold on there, Patrick, and as we close the show out here. So housekeeping real quick. Next week.
Oh, it's a Nerd Fest next week.
Nerd Fest. We have the 8-Bit guy that's on YouTube. He's going to be
our first YouTuber.
Yes, our first YouTuber. And, well, UFO Jane, she was actually our first.
Yeah.
UFO. But, I mean, and not to belittle her in any way, because we love her to death. But this guy, he's got quite a following, and it talks about retro computer equipment. And you just go and Google, or go on YouTube for that matter, and do a search for 8-Bit Guy. That's your homework, Space Cadets, to go check this guy out. And then, of course, if you send him a message, tell him, hey, you're looking forward to hearing him on the SBU next Saturday. And we can't wait for that. So, and then plus, next Friday, Spaceboy Music takes a nap. But for your listening pleasure, you get to hear Sirlana and Soki?
Yeah.
I get confused on
I might
how
have
to
to
say.
see if she'll
Change her name to something else. But anyway, they dish it out and talk it up, and hopefully I won't choke like last time. And you probably won't hear me beyond that. But they'll be on next Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And what are y'all going to be talking about, Solana?
We're going to talk about why we love The Fifth Element and the new movie by Luc Besson, Valerian?
Yes. They released a new trailer.
And we're excited about that.
Oh, that looks awesome. I wished I could be in that conversation, but it's just y'all two. I own a big chunk of the universe, and got to let you have your...
First Friday of every month.
Yeah, so, and then Spaceboy Music will return the following week, so that's all good. And then, of course, don't miss another exciting edition of the Quantum Hologram Matrix. That airs on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I believe that's correct, yes. And your host, Reverend John Polk, will expand your mind and bring the experience to you via his show.
Well, it's nice.
Yes, thank you.
Good for you.
All right. On that note, is there anything else, Solana?
We'll see you next Saturday.
Say goodnight, Solana.
Nah.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Sirlana. Executive producer is Sirlana. Social media producer is Dennis Koch. Associate producer is Lee Ann Cordes. Music production is Spaceboy of SpaceboyMusic.com. Special thanks goes out to Lee Ann K, K28, Mark S, and Bob N. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. Support the universe by exploring Spaceboy Universe with Spaceboy and Sirlana. Sweet dreams, Space Cadets.